that's life. That's life. That's what all the people say. You're riding high in April, shot down in May. But I know I'm gonna change that tune when I'm back on top in June. I said that's life.
So Gary, this is generally when you say, "Oh, we're live." This is how we do it. We just start recording.
This time, I, as a game plan, just decided I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah,
Just
you
kind of
threw me
have
for a
that
loop.
Standoff.
Yeah, you
what we
threw me
do.
for a loop, and I'm like, I'm not prepared for this. I'm not prepared to do this little opening that you typically do.
I forgot to make my sign that says "Don't click the pen."
Oh yeah, yeah. I told Gary on the last podcast. he went on a pen clicking tangent.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I heard it. I was like,
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah. It's tough.
It's a nervous tick. What can I do?
And sometimes I can take it out, like when he just does it when somebody else is talking. But when he is talking, I can't take it out because it's overlapping words.
I don't know anything about that.
Editing 101. So we have Dean Beyett here from 5 Star, and you're pretty accustomed to editing. I feel like most of your time. Okay, let's just say this: is more of your time spent doing car audio, or is it done doing post editing, post production, and filming and all that kind of stuff? How would you say your day is divided?
So, God, that's I do have a schedule. I'll say that. My day, like a Monday and a Saturday, we do live shows, so those just get recorded. As far as when we're in the install bay, it kind of depends what we're working on, whether or not we're gonna hit it with cameras or whatnot. If it's something we've done a bunch of, then we typically don't record, because it's like we can only record so many F-150s and so many Jeeps, and it's like, yeah, we've seen this. If it's something unique, then we'll film it. But so it's 9:30 to 6:30 there. Then I come home and I run, I eat dinner, and then by about between 8:30 and 9, I sit down on the couch. This is the best part. I sit down on the couch because the girls don't want me to go in the office. They're like, no, you have to be out in the room with us. So for the past 5 or 6 years, I sit out on the couch with the crappiest TV tray in the world, put my super expensive MacBook Pro on it, and sit there and edit until the wee hours of the morning. And I do that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday, I go out to eat with them. That's our like family night. And then I'll come home and I edit another video for Haley and my channel, The Boring Life of Dean and Haley. And then Saturday, Saturday's kind of like the family day. So I try not to do anything video related because we just did an hour show.
I was thinking he was going to say that's when I edit the family videos.
That's Friday night. Friday night is yeah. But we do a live show Saturday night, so I it's like we stay late to do that. That goes till 7, so we get out of there about 7:30, and then we don't do anything. So Saturday's weird because Saturday some nights we go off to Disney because we go to Disney about once a month. That was last weekend. We headed out to Disney. So we'll drive over Saturday night, stay the night, get up early in the morning, and spend the day there, and then bug out about 5 o'clock because we go every month. We don't need to hit every single ride.
Let me cut you off right there.
No, go ahead.
What is your 1C Disney ride?
You mean I have to do?
Yeah. What's your all-time number 1 seed of a Disney ride?
I mean, right now the best ride in the park is the Star Wars, whatever the hell that Rise of the Resistance.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best.
That's so dope.
Because it just seems like it never ends, and then halfway through the ride, you're not even on the ride yet. But when you walk into the Star Destroyer and all the stormtroopers just sit there and they all turn and look at you, and you're just like, oh my God. This is me back in 1970s playing with my figures going, oh, I'm going to kill you,
So if car audio doesn't ever work out, would you consider being a Disney Imagineer?
Oh, that would be awesome.
How cool would that be? Like when people are like, bro, I like the amp rack you built. You go on Rise of the Resistance and you look around and you're like, somebody made this. This is fabricated. This is one-off to the highest extent.
Well, it's funny because Ad and I typically will get together and we'll vacation at Disney. And we're walking around, and he's just everywhere with his camera. And I was laughing. I go, dude, what are you, Matt Schaeffer? Yeah. Because he's just taking pictures of everything. No, bro, I'm gonna make a set of A-pillars, and they're gonna look like this. And I'm just like, all right, But yeah,
no, I'm always blown away walking through like the queue lines and just looking at, because if you're going on like Smuggler's Run and you're walking through, and you see just all the spaceships, the luggage, all that is one-off handmade. It's not like they're buying that shit from Target and they're bringing it in and repainting it. It's all completely one-off, handmade, fabricated.
When you come around the corner and the Millennium Falcon is sitting there in life size, you're just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Take my picture. Take my picture.
It humbles you very quickly when you're a fabricator.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, and then you walk up on it and you look at it and you start picking out the little details of stuff that it's like, I know what that is, and I know what that is, and they're just putting stuff on there. And I mean, years ago, one of the guys that trained me, he was like, "Dude, this is how Disney does it. It's all smoke and mirrors." And I'm like, "Okay." And yeah, sure enough, he was like, "You do this, do that," and I was, because it's like back then it was magazines don't talk, like Jeremy said. It was like, But no, yeah, Disney's fun. People ask, and they go, why do you go to Disney? And it's like, the best answer to that is, if someone calls you and you're at Disney, all you have to say is, hold on a second, I'm at Disney. And immediately they'll go, no, that's all right, man. I'll call you back later.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Have you ever lied and said you were at Disney and you weren't?
I'm going to deny it.
Not gonna answer that.
I'm not going to answer that.
Pleads the fifth.
I'm not going to answer that.
Yeah, I mean, they just have stuff figured out as a company. They're like probably the greatest company in the world, maybe next to Amazon, but next to like how they perform, and their execution is like perfect. You know what I'm saying? It's the customer service is going to be great. The trip's going to be great. They're going to make you feel special, even though they see 100,000 of you every day.
Well, I mean, for us, it's like we have a park here called Busch Gardens, and then obviously we have Universal, and we rotate. Like we always have Disney passes. It's just how it works out. But every now and then we'll end up with like Busch Gardens passes, or we'll end up like right now we have Universal passes too. And so you just laugh because when you go to those parks, it's like, all right, we know what's important here, and it isn't customer service, And it's just one of those takeaways that it's like, it's very important to them that you have a good experience. I think they've nailed that, and I mean, our industry could definitely learn something from it if everyone could just kind of get past the whole, oh God, it's Disney, I'm spending all this money. Yeah, you're spending all this money, but you're also getting treated like everyone is treated great. Doesn't matter if you walked in with a sandwich in your backpack or if you paid $200 for a lunch. Everyone is treated great. Everyone is like, you're the most important thing that I have to deal with today. And that's just what it is. I had a couple friends that have worked there over the years, and the way that Disney finds their employees is they'll have, one of the ways I should say, is that they'll hire you in from college and they'll let you do your little internship there. And if you suck, they just say thanks, But if you have that Disney quality, then they'll offer you a job. And it's their way of being able to move hundreds of people through there and pick the cream of the crop. And they pay really well.
A couple stories just went through my head. I'm sorry, Gary. I'm just derailing this a little bit because it's all Disney talk. I was actually going to work at Disney, which might have changed my whole career path.
Slightly.
Because, when we first went to Orlando, we moved to Orlando. I applied at Disney, and I was going to work at Blizzard Beach as a lifeguard.
Nice.
Okay? But this is where this story goes off the rails. The dude that interviewed me, apparently my wife picked up on it, but he was gay, and he was hitting on, like, she said he was hitting on me during the whole thing. But and this whole thing might get edited out of the podcast. But I get a phone call the following day. And we might have been in Orlando for a week. I get a phone call the next day from a Florida number. And it's some random guy, not the guy that interviewed me, but the guy asked me on the phone. He just gets right to it. He's like, "Are you Matt Schaeffer?" And I'm like, "Yeah, who's this?" And I've only been in Florida for a week. There's nobody that should be calling me. And he's like, "Are you gay?" And I'm like, "No." And then I basically hung up the phone, and then I told my wife, and she goes, "Well, why'd you hang up the phone? Why didn't you ask who it was?" So I call back, and I'm like, "Where did you get my number?" And he goes, "Oh, I got it from a guy at Paradise Island." And this is when downtown Disney had Paradise Island. Mm-hmm. And he was like, "I got it from this guy at Paradise Island." So I can only assume that the guy that interviewed me went to Paradise Island, talked with this other guy, and had this guy call me.
Okay.
And I'm like, we got a lawsuit on our hands. Until I realized that, like, you just can't file a lawsuit against Disney. I, like, got a lawyer and everything, and they're just like, there's not a whole lot we can do with a random phone call unless you have, like, physical proof that this happened. And I'm like, fuck.
That's crazy.
Almost as crazy as this. Here's another fun fact. I've been banned from Universal 2 separate times in my lifetime.
I take it wasn't a lifetime ban.
No, 1 year bans both times. One time I was 13, and it was during Mardi Gras, and my buddy took beads because they sold beads at the gift shops.
Yeah.
And he just took some beads, put them on, and we walked out, and there was an undercover shopper that caught us, and they brought us down to this underground layer bunker, and basically wrote us
for the
up.
hardened criminals.
Yeah. Took her Polaroid, like they're going to put it on the wall, and every morning they're going to tell their workers,
Yep.
"All right, we're looking out for these people here. If they're banned for a year." They took our Polaroid, and we were escorted out.
But did they ask you if you were gay?
No, not at Universal. That's only a Disney thing. So second time was when I was in Orlando. During this whole time, I was going to school at Universal Technical Institute, and I had this stellar fake ID, right? I mean, I gambled in Vegas with this fake ID to the point where a cop asked me for my ID in Vegas, looked at it, and it was a woman cop, and she's like, "Oh, that's a fancy picture of you." I'm like, "Thank you," right? So this ID worked everywhere. It gets confiscated at the Bob Marley restaurant at City Walk, the most laid-back place in the world that you would expect. They asked me, "What's your address? What's your birthday? Sign it." Like, I'm nailing it all because I've done this before, right? And then all of a sudden they asked me a cop asked me my social because he was going to look it up. And I was like, "You got me." Same thing. I go to the same underground layer, hasn't changed much. They take my, this time, digital picture, not Polaroid, and a cop escorts me out with a bicycle. Those are some fun stories
Matt.
for you.
That paints a whole different picture of you.
Criminal history.
He's a recluse.
Yeah, that's why I love the podcast. We gotta humanize everyone here.
Oh, for sure.
Some fun stories. So, again, I can't imagine the anxiety that you have. Do you have anxiety with the pressure to get the next video out? And
No, I mean, not really anxiety. No.
Is it routine for you now? Like, it is what it is. Your body's accustomed to it.
I don't think you ever really get accustomed to it per se, because as you get better at it, you get older, and as you're getting older, your body's going, you need to slow down. So you're like, and yeah, so like, when it's 1 o'clock at night and you're still sitting there and you look and you got another 20 minutes of this crap, and you go, "Oh man, I really want to go to bed." Nah, get it done. I'll sleep, I don't know, Saturday morning or Sunday morning maybe. I don't know. Because then Sunday night is another, I do a quick edit on Sunday night that takes about 3 hours, but it's not 3 hours that I actually have to pay attention to. It only needs about 45 minutes of my attention to prep that show for Monday. So it's just a matter of like doing some work while we're watching a movie or something like that, and then looking over at the laptop as it just stares at me in the face going, look at me, feed me, Seymour.
Do you do one video a week on your channel on 5-star, or is it
Oh God,
multiple videos a week?
Oh
like,
yeah.
How's it structured?
So Monday morning, so everything releases at 5:30 in the morning, because that's a whole nother story, which if you want I can tell you. But so at 5:30 Monday morning, you're gonna get what we call the 5 minutes with 5-star recap show, which is our Instagram that we do throughout the week. We compile all that into one long show that a lot of people just listen to as a podcast. So that's Monday. Monday night, we do a Facebook Live show, and then that gets recorded and gets re-released on YouTube the next day. So I go home, edit that, and while I'm editing that, I edit that on a different computer than my main computer so that I can do two things at once, because there again, that's another show that just takes a lot of crunch time, but you don't have to, it's like making cookies. You just put them in the oven and you walk away. And so I'll go out in the other room and I'll edit something else. So then Tuesday is the rebroadcast of the Monday show. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are original edited content. So that could be an install diaries, car stereo lab, product review, whatever we have, an amp dyno, whatever we have going. Those 3 days are going to be an original content. And then Saturday, we do the YouTube live show. And then Sunday's nothing. So
I feel like such a failure because
I could barely
coming on here every
barely
Wednesday.
take a picture. I can barely take a picture.
Coming on here
of what we
every
do.
Wednesday seems difficult. And I have at this point I probably have like 11 YouTube videos just sitting in the bank that I haven't touched, that I'm behind on YouTube like over a year at least.
So a lot of times, we'll do a bunch of bulk recordings. We'll just film for a week straight, or we'll just film like whatever cars show up in the install bay. It's like, I don't care, just film them. And so we'll just have like a solid week's worth of filming or something like that we can just go through. So we don't like film and then release and film and release and film and release. Most of the time our content is recorded months before it actually gets up on YouTube, just because of the way the schedules work. So you got to have stuff in the can, because there again, if another F-150 rolls in, it's like, great, we can film one of those.
So I guess we can get into your background a little bit, and then
Sure.
I guess get into how the vlogging and the YouTube and all of that side of what you do and what you're known for, how that started, like where that idea came from. Obviously, there's really not many people that do it in our industry. It's like you, Mark. I don't know anyone else who does it. Maybe Steve to an extent. Steve Mead to an extent.
Yeah, I mean, he's created his own little niche. I mean, he was the first.
Does Doug still do anything?
He still puts out a show.
He does?
Yeah, he's building a van or something like that right now.
Okay. So, there's really, from what I know, 4 people that really do that. And it is a pretty big industry it's small, but it's also big at the same time.
Yeah. As far as my history goes in the industry, I went to work for a retailer back in 1990. A buddy of mine got a job at our favorite retailer. So here in Florida, back in the 90s, there was a retailer on pretty much every corner. Every abandoned gas station was a car stereo shop. And there was this one in particular, a place called AVE, that we all just gravitated towards. And one day, their whole staff got arrested, except for the owner. And so there was no one there to work anymore. And a buddy of mine that now works for AMP, a guy by the name of Nathan Winsek, he got a call from the owner, this guy JJ, and was like, "Hey man, I don't have any employees, and you like to install. Would you like to come and work for me?" He's like, "Yeah, sure, I'll come work for you." And he calls me up and he's like, "Hey man, you're not gonna believe this. I just got a job at AVE." And I was like, you suck. What the hell? So I was working for Procter & Gamble at the time, driving all over the state doing store resets and planogramming and all that nonsense. It was like a 3-day-a-week deal. And so I would come there because you'd start there at like 5 in the morning. You need to be done by noon. So I was like, perfect. So I'd drive home. I'd go to the AVE and hang out and see what he was doing. And basically, by being there every day, the owner was like, "Do you want a job?" I was like, yes, I do. And he's like, "Well, I need somebody to work Saturdays because I don't want to work Saturdays." I was like, "I don't care. Whatever." So he's like, "Okay, well, I definitely need you to work Saturday, but if you want to come in any other time and work, go for it." And I was like, "What, really?" He's like, "Yeah, you can work whatever you want. I'll pay you commission." And so I kept the job at Procter & Gamble, and I was going to night school at the time because my mom wanted to be an architect. She was like, "You should be an architect." I was like, "Yeah, it sounds great. I'll go and be an architect." I hated it. It was like after years of drawing with a pencil because CAD was like a new thing. I was over it. But took the job, and for like the first year and a half I worked there, I never took a paycheck. I just took car audio. I was like, I literally just was building my system. Like, people come in and they're like, "Hey, I want to buy something." Yes, you do. And I want to sell it to you. What do you want? What can I sell you? Because I have this nice Orion amplifier over here that's got my name written all over it. So you need to buy something so I can own this and put it in my car. And the owner thought it was hilarious. He's like, "This is like the stupidest thing ever. I'm paying this guy to work for me with just equipment." I was like, "I got a job. I don't need your money. I just need the stereo equipment." So when I got done with the car, I was like, "Can you get home audio stuff too?" He's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "All right, let's make a home audio system now." Hell yeah. So I don't know if I actually took a paycheck. I know like the first year and a half, 2 years, I don't think I ever took home a paycheck.
Oh wow.
It was funny. I didn't need the money. I was going to college. I lived at home. The Procter & Gamble job was paid so well. And then what happened is Procter & Gamble came in one day and they're like, "Hey, this was fun, but we're letting everybody go." And we're like, "Huh? What do you mean you're letting everybody go?" And you're sitting there going, you're 19 years old making all this money for doing like really nothing and just being like, "I really think that the Dawn Blue should be next to the Dawn Green." Just saying here. I'm like, "That's a great idea. And I think I should have 6 rows and we'll put the white at the end. What do you think? Sound good?" All right, cool. So I went in and I said, "Hey, listen, bad news. Procter & Gamble, my adult job, is going to let us go. So I'm at that crossroads. Do you want to make this a career for me? Or do I leave and go do something else as an adult job?" And he was like, give me 2 days. Let me punch some numbers. What kind of money do you need to make?" And I told him, and he was like, "All right." So, I went away for 2 days. I came back, and he had, all this paperwork, and he says, "All right, here's what it can be." And I was like, "All right, well, yes." And he's like, "Well, no, look at it." I was like, "Okay, let me ask you, are you going to pay me what I need?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "All right, fine, I'll take it. I don't care." I'm like, "That's whatever, man. This is what I want to do." He's like, "All right, well, then you start tomorrow and you need to be here at this time and this time." I was like, "All right, well, I need to leave because I still got to do this school thing for the foreseeable future. But other than that, I'll be here all these time." So that was it. And from there, I worked there for 21 years, and did everything.
There's no people like that anymore, just by the way. That's how I feel like with our couple generations, that's how you got a job, is just like being the pest at the place, working for free and learning. That doesn't exist anymore.
No.
There's few young people that I've seen that are eager and willing to learn and to be patient to learn and know that like they have to pay some sort of dues and then acquire knowledge and then get paid. Most people expect right off the bat to get paid like a shit ton of money and not do a lot of work. God, what has happened? What has happened to America?
I mean, even for me, I was like every 2 weeks when the paycheck came, I was just like, I'm getting paid for this?
Yeah.
I mean, are you kidding me? This is so silly. I get to play with all this cool shit and talk to people about putting stuff in their cars, and then, you know, in the job eventually transitioned. So it started out as sales, even though I wanted to be an installer. Everyone wants to be an installer. And then what happened is our installers sucked, and I was having to go back there all the time and be like, all right, listen, you guys, this seriously? Like, no, this is not how you do this. And so then it was like, all right, well, you need to do sales, and then you need to keep an eye on these guys and make sure they're, and I was like, oh, okay, sure, whatever, whatever. So, and then eventually it was like years, it's 21 years, so things just gradually kept changing, and then eventually it was like, all right, the install bay is yours. And I was like, yay, because he was just like, I'm over it. I don't want to deal with you monkeys anymore. You take care of this mess. And I was like, all right, cool. So it was like I had my fabrication corner, and I had 2 installers that did the work, and I was responsible for building everything and making sure these 2 guys knew what the heck they were doing every morning. And it just went on like that.
So just out of curiosity, in that time frame, I'm assuming we're talking about what, mid 90s, late 90s, mid to late
90s.
Okay,
late 90s.
How were you getting at that point in time? How were you getting educated? Like, as you're trying to progress, like, what are you looking at? Is it magazines? Is it VHS tapes of different things?
It was literally 100% magazines. Like, we had, I had a subscription to all the magazines, and back then, like, we were an Orion dealer, so like we were just like Orion, Rockford, and it's like Kicker, no, Orion, because those were the 3 brands back then in this part of the world. It's like you picked one of those and you put all your weight behind it. And so, it was literally just looking at magazines. And I did have a guy that worked with me, this guy by the name of Bill Trigillis. He was just he was a savant when it came to fabricating anything. And he was the guy that I just sat there and, stared at and watched him do everything. He was on Monster Garage. He built the Coco the Talking Gorilla car on Monster Garage.
Such a great show, by the way.
Yeah,
I heard they're bringing that back. Is there any truth to that?
It's back. Yeah.
It is back now, currently.
Yep.
Why?
Yep.
Yeah, Gary would know. He's probably been on the show before.
Behind the scenes, but yes.
Yeah.
But anyways, he was on that show, and he's still, actually, it's funny because to this day, he still builds stuff, but right now he builds Mandalorian armor. That's his gig.
That's a fun job.
So but he's self-employed. He has another company where he does stuff for the hydraulics industry, but it's his
Is it for like high-end cosplay?
Oh, 100%. All high-end cosplay. That's all he does. But he's one of those guys that could just build anything, never finish it, but he could build anything. Like, he had to have a guy that would work with him that would finish it, but it's like if there was something that needed to be done, he would figure it out and he would do it. And so I just would sit there and watch how his process was, and I was like, okay, and that was the guy that I learned a lot of my stuff from. It was like, don't say no, just say, give me a minute, we'll figure it out. So I mean, he was putting hydraulics on golf carts and building remote control cars that would, do 3-wheel motion and just all this stupid stuff. But, as a young guy, I was just sitting there watching him going, oh, it's so neat,
Wow.
So, but that was it. It's funny because Fernando and I talk about that now. It's like, he goes, so what are your regrets? And I was like, I really don't have any regrets. I just bummed that, we never went to a knowledge fest or anything like that back.
Yeah, you couldn't expedite that process.
No, because the owner was very cheap, And he was very like, this is my world, you're living in my bubble, and this is all that you need to see. So getting outside of that, it really didn't happen. And
Yeah, I felt the same way. I know I didn't grow. I was at the same spot up until I was literally became friends with the industry, like the people that we know now. And somehow I don't even know how it started. I think it's because we got Emmy Mag at the store, and I'm like, oh, they have these top 50, top 100 installers, and I was like, maybe I'll do it. And then I did it, and then I was in the top 12, so that's what made me go to my first Knowledge Fest. And then I went there, and then I saw like how everyone was just like, everyone knew each other, and I didn't know anybody. And I'm like, wow, this is so cool. And then I saw that was the year Tom won, and I saw Tom win, and I'm like, wow, this whole crowd like has so much admiration for this guy that must be such a cool feeling. And at that point, it was like kind of like a personal goal of mine to do that one day. And that's kind of like for me how it started. And then at that point, you become friends with all of these different people all over the country. You see the work everyone's putting out, and then you're just like, time for me to step the fuck up. You know what I mean? Because it puts things into perspective. Once you see what other people are doing, it makes you reevaluate how much effort and how much work you're putting in.
Well, I was kind of equate it to he would do like the Jedi mind trick on us and be like, "There's nothing for you to see outside this store. This is and there again, I was young, and it was just like, he's not wrong, and he's there again, it was 5-6 days a week, every week you're hearing him talking in your ear, and he's successful, and you're just buying into this. And I mean, even when I started at 5-star, it was like, and then, I'm good friends with Jeff Smith, and Jeff Smith's like, dude, you gotta go to Knowledge Fest. For the love of God, you gotta go to Knowledge Fest. And I was like, all right, Jeff, I'll go to Knowledge Fest. He goes, if you go, I can get AMP to, if you're going to film or do something like that, we can pitch it to AMP, and, I'll see if they pay for your hotel room. I was like, okay, sounds cool. And, so we pitched it. We went to our first Knowledge Fest. We filmed the shit out of it. I was like, oh, this is awesome.
It really beats staring at a magazine and trying to reverse engineer everything.
Oh my God, what a pain in the ass. So it was funny because when we went to the first Knowledge Fest, it was the same experience like you talked about, but it was funny because, Fernando and I were just walking around, and Fernando goes, "That's Matt Schaeffer." You were like on the other side of the staircase, and I go, "Where?" He goes, "Right there." I go, "Oh yeah, that's him."
So
I was
weird.
like, this is so weird because, up till then it was like we just see these people in Facebook pictures or Instagram and something like that. And it's like, I remember when I met Tom Miller, it was the funniest thing because he walked up to me and we're all hanging out in this hotel room. And he goes, "Oh, hi, Dean, I'm Tom Miller." And I was like, you don't think I don't know who you are? I mean, you're Tom Miller, for God's sakes.
That's fun.
It was hilarious. But...
Yep.
So what about that transition from the 21-year place to 5-star? What happened? What triggered that? How'd that all go down?
Remember 2006, 2007?
Yep.
Remember that time frame?
That's when
as
I
a
moved
business
too.
owner, it pretty much sucked for everybody. So what was happening is the owner of our store, he had a lifelong dream of becoming a football coach for his high school. And he got the opportunity to do it in 2004, 2005. And it was like, he's a big football fan. He was on cloud 9. So he would leave half the day, and, we would run the store. 2004, 2005, it was fine. We were all making money. Everything was going well. And then 2006 rolled around, and we stopped making money. And then he was like, I don't know what's going on. He was blaming it on me. Like, I'm not helping. And I was just like, you're not here. Like, it's not our fault. Because no one really knew what was happening back then. Yeah. And by the time 2007 rolled around, it was... the staff had been reduced to me, the owner, and a guy that works on Saturday. And he had just lost all feeling for the business. And it was like, I got to get out of here because this is just sucking the life out of me. You know, it's like I'm trying to keep it going because it's how I make a living, but the guy who's up front trying to pay the bills isn't behind it. It's like, we got to do something, man. We got to get butts in the seats. And he's like, well, you know, I'm like, no, there's no well, you know, this is not a well, you know moment. This is like, we have to change. And he couldn't follow that. And a buddy of mine came in and said, hey, listen, you know, this guy, Paul, who we were actually buying equipment from at the time, he's going to open an install bay because he was outsourcing all his install work at the time. And he's like, it's not working out for him. So he's going to open an install bay. And he's looking for somebody to do it. And I had asked him if he'd be interested in you. And I was like, oh, what the hell do I got to lose? I go talk to him and find out what he's all about. And so I had already known him because we'd actually spent some time at Universal together, theme parks. And so I went and talked to him, and he's like, he pitched the idea that he had, and I was like, okay, I mean, that's fine, but reality is this what it's going to need to be? And he's like, yeah, I don't care, whatever, let's do it. I was like, all right, well, let me put my 2 weeks in, and I'll come over here. And my first day there, it was literally 6 walls, no workbench. I mean, it was a lawyer's office. They gutted the whole place. They put a door in the back. And the only thing in this bay was there was a printer stand on wheels. And I walked in, and I set my tools down. And he goes, I got a car coming in in a half hour. I'm like, we don't even have a workbench. Like, the air compressor won't be here until like Tuesday. What do you mean? Like, half my tools are still in my living room. He's like, yeah. Oh, and I got you an assistant. I'm like, you did what? What do you mean you got me an assistant? It was the first day was just a nightmare.
What was the car?
It was a
And
Dodge.
what was the job?
It was a Dodge Caravan. And
Ooh, wait a second.
Yep.
Matt.
What year Dodge Caravan?
It's a previous body style. So this was 2007, 2008. So it was like a 2008, 2009
Okay.
Dodge Caravan. He was super excited because at the time the most expensive speakers he had were Alpine R-types. So he had sold him a whole set of Alpine R-types, 2 Alpine amplifiers, an Alpine radio. So he was like, oh man, we put this huge system together. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is just Alpine R stuff. This was like our entry level stuff where I came from. And he's like, I'm like, we Focals. We don't have that. Okay. So, and he used kits, and I'm used to using off the spool, and it was just this. And then there's this strange guy that came along with the 6 walls, and I'm like, who are you? Where did you come from? He lasted just that day, and then I said, please call him and ask him not to come back, because he's terrible.
I wonder what he's doing nowadays. He's the only, like, if he's listening right now, he's probably just like, oh.
I can tell you right now, he ain't listening. No. Because, after spending a day with them, it's like, yeah, I slept on the park bench. I was like, oh, God, no. All right, no, we don't need this. I don't need this drama in my life. But no, it was a 2-day job. We worked on this Caravan. It was just a train wreck. I had to work really late that night just because the wiring that this guy had done was, I was like, nope, taking it all back out. So took it all back apart, started back over. Guys picked it up in the morning. It was all done. And I was like, listen, man, we got to slow down. I got to get a workbench in here. And, it was funny because, like, I remember hanging slot wall on the wall, and it's like my mom stopped by. And I was like, hey, could you hold that? Just push up against the wall while I put this screw in. And she's like, where, here? I'm like, yeah, just lean up against the wall as I put the screw in. She's like, okay. It was just funny. Because, I had built AVE up over the years, but it was one of those growing things where you kind of grow into the install bay. This was literally like, here's 6 walls. Oh, and by the way, you got like 2 minutes to get it up and where we can start working, and then that's it.
And here's a homeless guy with the screw with the Phillips.
And is this the same facility you're in now?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's changed a little bit over the years, but it's one of those things where so it was just him and I for like the first 3 years. And so I would, it was two guys, and it got to the point to where I was like, I can't keep up with this, man. I can't keep, because it's 6 days a week, and I'm just like, I can't do this. And he's like, well, let's hire somebody. And I was like, yeah, let's do that. And Fernando he worked for a competitor, and he would come by because he could just, for the life of him, could not figure out steering wheel controls. And he really didn't know anything about installation. And so they'd bring these cars to us, and he'd just ask me like a million questions. And I was like, okay, I recognize this because I've had plenty of installers work for me over the years. But I would tell him something, and he would do it. And I was like, that's weird, because most people don't do that. I might have to tell him, like, he might come back, and I'll be like, hey, this is what we talked about last week. He's, oh, yeah, that. And he'd be like, oh, that's all I got to do here? And I'll be like, yeah. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. So when we decided to hire somebody, he was throwing names at me of people he knew, and I was like, why don't we just hire Fernando? And he speaks Spanish, which is great because we have a huge Spanish population here. And I said, I'll just teach him everything he needs to know, and we'll call it a day. He's like, yeah? And I was like, yeah. Because that's the only way I'm going to get somebody that can tolerate me is, somebody that's going to do it the way I tell him to. He was, it was funny too, because when we hired him, his boss was like, oh, they're going to fire you. They don't really want you to work there. They're just trying to take you away from me and all this other crap. And he showed up with a cordless drill and this most flea market set of wire crimpers you've ever seen.
I wonder what they look like.
He still got them. He still got them, dude.
Really?
You could kill somebody with these wire crimpers. They're the most massive things you've ever seen. But I had a bucket of tools already sitting there waiting for him with everything that he needed. And I was like, all right, you have a drill, good. This is the rest of the stuff you're gonna need. And he's like, okay. And so, I said, let's go. Let's do great things. He'll tell it differently because it was much more scary for him. But yeah, that's gonna just kind of gone ever since.
What year was that he came on board?
God, it's such a blur.
Yeah, get close.
What's it, 2021? So probably 2016, 2017? Something like
That
that.
wasn't even that long ago.
No, it was like 5 or 6 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Maybe 7. 5 or 6, 7? Maybe 7. This second go round at this place, I'm not keeping track as well as I did at my first one. It's like, I've already been down this road.
It's so weird because it feels like time goes so fast, but then when you put that in perspective, it seems like time goes so slow. Because it was only like 15 years ago, the iPhone didn't even exist.
Oh, right. Right.
You know what I mean?
The internet.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So when you say 2016 is when he came aboard, I feel like if I'm in my head trying to think of how long I've known you guys as like a couple deal.
Yeah.
I feel like it's longer than that.
It
way
might have
longer than
been.
that.
Well, so what happened was he came to work for us, and so when I worked at AVE, Facebook and MySpace and YouTube were just coming of age. Like they were brand new. We have a Facebook page, and the idea for creating content was there, and it was like let's create content. Let's do things to promote the business, but the means to do it really didn't exist. Like DSLRs that shoot video weren't a thing. The iPhone had just come out, and the camera on it was crappy, let alone, you're going to edit a movie. I had done a few movies editing an iMovie, and it was like, I don't have time for this. That's like, it's going to take me days. So it was a great idea, but there was just no way to actually make it happen. So fast forward to 5-star, and at that point, I was way more into cameras. I had a bunch of camera stuff already because my side gig was photography. So it was like, I got all these cameras that shoot video. Let's just shoot some video. And so I brought one into work one day, and I told him, I said, I have this great idea. And he's like, what? I said, I'm going to put the camera on. I'm going to say something in English, and then you just repeat it in Spanish. Ready? Go. And he's like, and he just said, okay. My dumbass, you know, I sucked at Spanish. I took a year and a half of it in high school, and I didn't, you know, they never told me nothing. I didn't, you know, I know, you know, no habla español. And so he's sitting there trying to do this, and I'm like, dude, what's the problem? He's like, you don't understand, man. English and Spanish, like, they don't, like, I think backwards to you, and I got my whole lesson in Spanish. And he was like, okay, this is going to be harder than I thought. But we managed to make it through one little 3-minute video, and it's like, all right, this was fun. We'll figure it out as we go, and we just kind of moved forward with that. You know, so that's when we started out as the Pioneer Unboxers. We just unboxed countless numbers of Pioneer radios and Kenwood radios, and talked about how to do brake bypasses and how to set the clock, and you know, it was like, it was getting old.
Well, that was also super popular at the time.
Yeah.
Like, of that YouTube time frame, right?
Yeah.
I feel like unboxing was like super popular, and that's in your mind the quickest way to grow your audience, or to have something that's relevant that anyone can use and anyone's going to search for.
I mean, we were our goal was never to create an audience. It was just to like put stuff out there. And then one day we're sitting there, and Chris Bennett came in, and I was talking to him, and I'm like, hey man, you know, let's do some stuff. And he's like, you mean on the Pioneer YouTube channel? And I go, ooh, damn. He's like, dude, let's be honest, man. You just do way too much Pioneer. And Fernando's sitting there going, yeah. And he'd been bugging me to go into the install bay. He's like, dude, we need to go in the install bay. We need to record the install bay stuff. And I was like, I didn't want to do it because I just didn't want to listen to anything like, oh, you're doing this wrong, or oh, you're doing that wrong. He's like, dude, were you kidding me? And I was like, no, I just didn't want to deal with it. And he was like, let's just do it. So actually he took a day off, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna film something in the install bay, and I'll just put it up and see how it goes. And it was like, after that it was like, oh crap, now we got to do this forever. So yeah, that just snowballed really fast.
How fast?
So once we stopped doing unboxings like as a primary and started going to like, it eventually evolved into what's called the install diaries now. It probably doubled within that year. You know, it was like, all right, you were right. My bad, you were right. But there again, I mean, one of the things I like to do is try different types of shows and different types of like, you figure out what works and you just keep doing that. That's fine. But then you just kind of bored. So we always try to come up with a new way of doing something, or a different way of shooting it, or just a different perspective on it. Or, you know, you'll read the comments and they'll be like, I didn't understand this. And you'll be like, oh, I thought I explained that pretty well. So, all right, so the next time we'll shoot another one and we can explain it more or take it from a different perspective. And
what do your metrics say is your most receptive type of video?
Oh, definitely anything we do in the install bay. I mean, actually, our most popular video ever is, which we just shot on a whim. Like, we came in and I go, you know, we need to show people how to tap into a fuse box the right way. You know, using the fuse taps and the red wire that comes off, and explain to them why that has to be a specific direction so the fuse will actually work. And so, you know, I go, Fernando, pull your car in real quick and we'll just shoot this really fast. I got this idea in my head. I need to get it out. You know, we shot the video in like 15 minutes. I took it home. I edited it. I threw it up on, and it's still to this day. We probably did like 4 years ago. And it's still like one of our top viewed videos. And I'm like, really?
Yeah. And I think I've told Gary this in the past, that like, as you grow and you become more educated and your skills develop, you gotta stay with an understanding that some of the most basic type of stuff is going to get the most engagement.
Oh yeah.
Right. Anytime
for
that
sure.
like I'll post like a full build log and all that kind of stuff, and then I'll post like an acrylic speaker adapter, and the acrylic speaker adapter will get way more like likes and engagement than a full build log of something that's crazy.
Is
Oh,
that
yeah.
because people are searching for something that's vehicle specific, maybe, or
No, I think people react more to something that potentially is more simplistic or something that they can do versus something that's just like out there.
Well, the other is it's kind of overwhelming. So,
Right.
if you put up 50 pictures of a build log, they're just gonna do this.
But no,
Whereas
so I could put a picture of like right now on Instagram. I could do like a finished amp rack of the Tesla that I just did.
Mm-hmm.
Like one picture, and then the next picture could be like an acrylic speaker adapter of a Ford Bronco. And I feel like that will get more engagement and comments and likes and all that than the finished amp rack.
So
It's
if you
weird.
really-
It's
if you
very
really-
weird.
If you really want to get the most engagement on Instagram, believe it or not, it's short videos. So if you, this is the dumbest thing ever, but if you have that acrylic panel sitting there, and you literally just go, "This is an acrylic panel for a Ford Bronco,"
Right.
and you post
Weird,
that,
right?
you will get way more viewership than you ever get with a picture. I had this tool guy came in. Pioneer sent him in for us to put the stereo in, and he was actually filming us put the stereo in his car. And I was like, this is weird. And
backwards.
Yes, totally backwards. And we were talking after it was done, and he's like, I do this and that, and I was like, okay. And he's like, try this, and I was like, hey, why not? I'll try it. I mean, it's what we're all here to do. And I was like, damn, he was right. And so, it's weird how that all works, but you could literally take that same app rack, post a picture of it, and then just do a fly-in of it, and you'll get more engagement on the fly-in of it. I don't know what it is. I mean, it just has to do with what people like to see. So anybody out there that would like more engagement,
Yeah,
small
algorithms
videos.
and engagement is very weird because, like, if you post a YouTube link on Facebook, they don't like that, right?
No.
Yeah. If I post
No.
like, okay, here's the new YouTube video that I just did, it just goes to nobody's feed because
Right.
they're
Yeah,
just
oh,
like,
yeah.
it
They
needs to
don't
be
care.
a Facebook video, right?
Yes.
So the engagement and the react, it's all very, very weird. But I will say, and I don't know if you've started doing anything on TikTok.
My daughter would love for me to, but no, I haven't.
Right. I haven't until recently,
Yeah.
but the engagement is incredible.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't post much, and I just started posting recently. So basically on the Tesla that I just did, I did like a radar, a portion of the radar job. So I show like, just I take 5-second video of when I have like the diffuser pod made out of all acrylic and then skinned in IR acrylic and then on the car and then showing some of the inside of the car with the display. And obviously with the editing of TikTok, which is what I really enjoy, you can basically say, I want all 8 of these videos and then pick a song and it'll audio sync it. So it basically edits the video for you perfectly to the music. And then you post it. And this radar video had over 80,000 views with like 7,000 likes with
Wow.
hundreds of comments,
Wonderful. So now you're going to make me do this.
right? But not only that, it's the video output that it gives you. Because on Instagram, you can't select, or Facebook, you can't select multiple videos, sync it with music, right? You're picking
No.
really one recording unless you're going to edit it,
Yeah.
post with something else. But on this, you can do everything in the app.
Yeah.
And it'll output the video, and then I end up sharing that to Facebook and Instagram just because the video is showing way more of a story than you can do on Instagram or Facebook.
Right.
But when I do it on TikTok, I mean, so I will say, and I'm sure you deal with this all the time, it's just like the uneducated, ignorant ass comments that you'll get on YouTube.
Never.
TikTok is worse because it's it's more of a younger generation, right? But the algorithm, you know, if you're tagging it with Tesla or cars of TikTok or whatever, it's going to all of these people's feed. So basically how TikTok works, it'll send it out to 10 people and it'll see the engagement with the 10 people. If it's high enough, it'll send it out to 100, then 1,000, then 10,000, then 100,000, then 1,000,000 people. So if the video is good, within a day, this fucking video can have 1,000,000 views, right? And most people, if they like your content, they'll just slide over and they'll go to your profile and you have your information in your profile. Right. And the whole reason I started doing this is because, you know, my tattoo artist, she's like a 23-year-old Russian girl, and she started doing these random TikToks of her, you know, her work combined into one. And overnight, she had like 250,000 followers and millions of views on all her stuff. And people would call her all day trying to book appointments with her from all over the country.
Nice.
So I'm like, all right, I'm obviously missing the boat here. And I need to figure this out. You know?
Yeah. I mean, we found that, like, you know, we have a specific thing for Facebook. Like for Facebook, when we looked at it, we're like, okay, so we have the 5-star page for Facebook. We've been doing a live show there. We have the longest scheduled show on the air. Like, we've been doing this for so many years. It's like no one has had a Monday night show at 6:30 like we have. I mean, I don't even know how many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes we have of this show. And so it's like, because we keep going, do we want to keep doing this show? Because the engagement, it's Facebook, it's not the greatest, but it's like, dude, we've been literally doing it for like 7-8 years. I mean, do we want to stop? I mean, it's and we know we could easily sidetrack it over to YouTube and it would just explode, because we had to do that Monday because Facebook was down. Mm-hmm. And everyone was like, just do this from now on. We're like, no, we're just really nostalgic for this. Plus it's Monday night, and it's like it's like you have that Monday hangover of just like, oh my God, and it's slower and the questions don't come as fast. Mm-hmm. So it's like a little bit easier to deal with. But so that's what we get out of Facebook for 5-star. And then we created the 12-volt clean wire club, and like, Jesus, like I think we created that like last April, and it just exploded. Like I mean, I haven't looked lately because I have other guys that do that, but it was like 75,000 people became members of that.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, I was like, holy crap. And it was funny because, you know, it's like, all right, we got 5,000 members in our group. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, but there's 75,000 people interested in this over here. It's like, holy crap. So that was a neat experiment that we use it for different things. I mean, like, every now and then Brian will put up a sale on there, or if there's some news or something like that, we'll feed it into that group of people. If it's, like we sell the 12-volt clean wire, or we sell the wire ruler. So we came out with that product with Brian. You know, we featured it on there and helped drive that business for that. And then Instagram, we've kind of split that. So Fernando has his page that a lot of people follow because he posts a lot of the work that we do. And then the 5-star page, we mainly just use it for the 5 minutes with 5-star daily show that we do, where we just kind of go on for 5 to an hour, depending on what is happening. We kind of talk about what's going on in the install bay, show the progression of the car that's in the install bay. And what we found with that is a lot of the customers that are there are waiting for us to do that with their car. Like, they're literally like, we used to say, hey, people come in, you're going to shoot a video of this? And I'll be like, I don't really know. And they're like, no, are you going to do a 5 minutes with this car? And I'm like, oh yeah, of course, we're going to do a 5 minutes. Okay, cool. I'm like,
yeah, same thing. Like with it, and it's funny because I don't even, like, I do enough YouTube to get me my next job.
Right.
And I have enough jobs on there that I've done that still continues to get me the jobs that I do now. But a lot of people will always ask, you know, hey, are you going to shoot the video on this? Like, is this going to be a build video? Or I always find it funny too, because like when I walk up and meet the customer for the first time, like they already know like what I look like. So they're like, and I have no idea what they look like. They're like,
oh yeah,
hey, what's up? Nice to meet you.
Well,
so
that
I mean,
was
it's kind of fun.
That was kind of, you know, we taught a couple classes at Knowledge Fest about making video and the whole rabbit hole of video and trying to explain to people how this whole thing works. And that was one of the things I was trying to get across to the sales guys. I was like, listen, man, you know, if you have 20 good videos that at the beginning of the video you just say, hi, I'm so-and-so, let's take a look at what's going on, they're going to watch all of them. And when they walk in, they're going to go, you know, hey, Gary, how are you doing?
Yeah, you already have the rapport built with them. They already feel like they know you. They don't have to feel like they get over that point where they trust you. Because, you know, like you and I, if we go out to just a random shop and we're interested in buying something, we have to like, we're studying that person to like understand if we can trust them.
Oh, yeah.
But at the point of these people, they already trust us coming in because they've already seen our stuff and they've seen our shop and they already know what to expect.
Right. Well, I like to, I'm not a sports guy at all, but I always equate it to, because I know a lot of people are, I'll just say, imagine if you went to the Super Bowl, but you knew what the outcome was going to be. Are you going to bet on your team? You know, or you're not. So
that's a good analogy.
If they already know, like everybody already knows what their Tesla is going to look like if they hand it off to you. You know, they've seen enough of them to know that.
That's a great
I think
analogy.
this guy knows what he's doing. So you know, they're willing to open up to you,
take
and
a
have
chance.
you do it. Yeah, because, and they're not even really taking a chance, because what is the likelihood you're going to walk
it's not
in
a
that
chance,
day?
but
You know,
I mean, and I had this conversation with the guy that picked up his car last Friday, is like, you know, because we had talked, but we didn't talk fully in depth. I didn't know his background at all. I didn't know that he was in strictly sound quality. I didn't know he was an enthusiast. I didn't know any of this. When you're spending, and I don't want to say the number, like where you could buy another car for the system, that, I mean, no matter what, no matter how much you know somebody, that's still a chance, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because you have to feel like if you spent that you're getting that in return. Right. And then to have like a reaction, like how he had the reaction, makes everything that we do and all the time that we spend super worth it. But a lot of that has to do with the social media presence and putting your work out there and being vulnerable and being transparent.
Oh, totally. I mean, it's definitely walking around naked. I mean, you know,
please don't.
I'm
Please
not.
don't.
No.
Either of you.
Oh, come on, baby. You know, for me, it was weird because like the first time that I had a guy call me up and say, "Hey, listen, I'm gonna come have you guys put this Pioneer radio in my car." You know, I have this like 2015 or 2000 some Ford Explorer that we could still put a radio in. I was like, "Yeah, that's cool." He goes, "I'll be there, you know, Saturday morning. I'm driving in." And I said, "Oh, driving in? Where are you driving in from?" "I'm coming from Michigan." I'm like, "Hold on. Let me back this up. You're driving from Michigan to have me put in a Pioneer 8000 whatever in your Ford Explorer?" He goes, "Yeah." And I go, "Why?" He goes, "Well, because I know what it's going to look like when it's done." And I go, "Okay, all right, I'll see you Saturday." And I walked over to Fernando and go, "I just got off the phone. You're not going to believe what we just talked about." And he's like, "What?" And I said, "This guy's driving in from Michigan to have us put an 8000 in his Ford Explorer. He's going to drive past 100 or 1,000 guys down. You know, he's driving 24 hours to have us put this thing in his car." Okay. But he knew what he was going to get. He knew that like the harness was going to look the way the harness did. He knew that we understood how the radio worked. He knew that we could explain it to him if he had any questions. And it was like,
he knew he wasn't going to get burned. He knew that it was going to work and it was going to look good and it was going to do what he wanted. And, you know, some people, they'll go the extra mile and spend the extra money or travel the extra distance to know that they're not going to have to do it twice.
Right. Well, they get to bet on their team because they know their team is going to win.
Yep.
You know, like I said, it's not like you're gonna walk in one morning and look at this car and go, I'm gonna screw it, I'm done. I don't care about this thing. Just whatever. Call the backup guys. I'm gonna be in my office sucking on a latte today. Screw you guys. I'm going home. You know, it's not like you're gonna do that. Our character flaws won't let us do that. You know, as much as we'd go, what's the shortcut here? It doesn't matter. It's not like I'm gonna do it. You know, we're always gonna try to find, you know, the hardest way to do something, and you know, because I mean, I'm just as guilty as anybody. I'll be doing something and I'll look at Fernando and I'll go, all right, I'm overthinking this. What is your idea here? And I'll be like, I was gonna do this, and I'll be like, all right, you're way overthinking it. Okay, we're gonna go with my idea. You know.
So do you have a pretty standard acceptable quality level for every job? Like, is every job executed to the exact same level, or do you kind of have the installs that you're, hey, this is an A player and this is a B player type setup, or how do you approach that?
Everything is an A player. Every single thing is an A player. That was one of those things that everything always got an obscene amount of zip ties, and the install always evolved and it always got better, and it was like, you know, you're just doing stuff. And the problem that we ran into is that we don't know who's there because we're us, or if they're just stumbled upon us because they were eating at Hooters across the street and we're like, oh, there's a car stereo shop there. So it's just like everything is just done the best way possible, and then that's it. You know, so there's no ever like, and everyone gets charged accordingly. So everyone just gets charged for an A install. That's it.
And do you have like a flat rate that you're charging for amp install? Like, is there a
Yeah, Gary and I have talked about this numerous times on the podcast, and we're saying that this was the biggest question that we wanted to ask you.
Oh, I know.
Because, you know, a lot of, you know, like the clean wire install thing on Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
To do that to a certain extent, obviously that's time, and time is money and time is labor. So,
yes.
You know, on a is that like a standard amp install? Is that something that, you know, the person already knows or has an expectation of what it's going to look like, and then you're charging accordingly for the time to make everything look immaculate? Like, how does that work?
So I guess I have to kind of back up to how the sales kind of work. So how a customer comes in, or how a sale starts, if it's either going to be from a phone or somebody that walks in the door. Obviously, somebody walking in the door is a better example for right here. So guy comes in today, or any day for that matter, and Paul will talk to him, and he has to decide, is this his customer or is this my customer? Mm-hmm. And usually within the first 5 minutes of the conversation, he'll make that decision, and he'll walk over to the install bay and I need you to go talk to this guy. And I'll be like, all right, let me just stop what I'm doing. So I'll walk over there, and then we'll have that conversation of like, okay, let's go out to your car. Let's do this. Let's, you know, tell me your deepest, darkest secrets. Tell me all about your life. How old are you? What kind of music do you listen to? I'll sit in the car. I'll turn the car on. I'll listen to what he's listening to. I'll check the radio station. Even if it's an F-150 that we've done hundreds of, I don't care. I want to look at the wheels that the guy has on his car. I want to see how much crap he has sitting on his back seat. You know, I need to know this guy, and then I'll ask him, you know, what kind of, so, you know, we'll spend that first 10 minutes of me just trying to figure out who this guy is. And usually within that time, I'll find out, is he a new customer that just stumbled across us, or is he someone that has watched the show and is here because he watched the show? If he's here because he watched the show, it speeds up the process because he's there to get what we do. If he's somebody that's new and just found us, then we kind of, I'll take the longer route and just kind of walk through our process of how we do things. You know, everything is going to get an amp board. Everything is going to be firmly secured. If there's a T-harness for your car, we're going to use it. If there isn't one, we're going to make one. You know, we're going to do it this specific way. We have some examples of our work. Like I literally called up manufacturer and said, do you have any blown amplifiers? And they're like, yeah. And I said, well, send me 2 of them. I want to make an amp board that I can screw to my counter, and then so I can go, this is what it's going to look like when we're done. And they can, oh, okay, cool. Some of them don't care, some of them do care.
So many manufacturers are about to get calls following the week of this podcast asking for blown amplifiers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
That's a
I was
great
like,
idea.
I called them. I called them up. I said, "Hey, do you have any blown amplifiers that you're just gonna throw away?" And they're like, "Yeah, but they're old." And I said, "I really don't care. I just need heat sinks and terminals so that I can make this display and screw it to the board so that Paul can sell this better." And they're like, "Okay, cool." So I have like 3 amps just
I like that.
wired and just literally screwed. We won't even get into. Okay, so anyways, so then what happens is once we've gone through this dance of tell me your hopes and dreams, I'll design the system for them. I'll put it all together, and then I'll go, do you have any more questions? And they're like, no. And I'll say, okay, I'm going to pass this off to Paul. He's going to fill in all the blanks. So he's the sales manager, so to speak, at the car lot. And then he writes down all these numbers, and I'll take it, and all right, so your total is this. And they'll either say yes or no. Now, built into that, of course, is a charge for everything. So whether it just turns out to be like a kicker key install with a set of components up front or the most basic install ever, we really don't have a basic install for anything. Because you're, like if you have a car and you're getting a kicker key, which is, I just say that because it's like the most basic install we do is we do a simple front stage upgrade where we'll put a kicker key on a set of really nice speakers up front and then add some kind of subwoofer. That key is getting mounted, that key is getting an amp rack, that key is getting 2,000 zip ties. It's going to be the sexiest looking key you've ever seen. And that's just what it's going to be, and you're going to pay that. And most of our customers will just go, okay.
Can you feel free to say no? Can you put a dollar figure to what that 2,000 zip tie amp?
It's about a
or how many hours? Just give me. So if you can't put a number, just give me hours.
If we're doing so,
like what a basic, because that's. And again, the problem with our industry is half our industry will charge hourly and sell it that way, and half will put a flat rate cost on a 5-channel amplifier, right? And I guess this is the point of the podcast where we're trying to figure out where some of these shops who are doing it the wrong way, where they're not getting the full return on the work that they're putting in.
Right.
How can they do it better? How can they do a Dean amp install and get the money for it from their client?
So for example, most of the like the videos that we'll shoot, those are usually like what we call a 2.5 day install. So we have the car for 2.5 days, and what he's figured out is how much money we have to make for those 2.5 days of our time, and that's what you get charged. So you get charged for 2.5 days of our time, and that's just how the bill writes out. So it's usually whatever the equipment costs is what the installation is going to cost. So
here's my question: when you say 2.5 days, is that 2.5 days times 2 guys? So that's technically 40-ish hours.
Yeah, because we work as a team. So we don't. We have a 1-car bay. So our guy, we do everything. He does this, I do that. We just work on 1 car at a time because we don't have room for anything else.
Yep.
So, so he'll get in there. So I have him do stuff that he's good at, and then I'll do what I'm good at. And so when it comes to like sound treatment, he'll get in there and he'll sound treatment this, and we just leapfrog our ways through the car so that we do it as efficiently as possible. And we can, usually we're done in 2 days, and then that last day, because I like to come in and tune in the morning. I hate tuning at night. It's like, so like this morning we came in to finish this F-150, and it was basically done. I just needed to laser out the acrylic panel for the bass knob, and then it had the Sony badge on the top, so I needed to laser out the panel to replace that. And then it was just like, go through and do, the polarity check, the balance check, and make sure all the speakers are playing the way they're supposed to play, and then sit there and tune the car. And, by like 1 o'clock we're done and the car can be shipped. And then we'll usually have cars waiting for us when we're done with that. We'll just bang through those. But yeah, it would be double whatever, so 40 hours worth. He charges a lot. Let's just say that he's not shy on the invoices.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing that Matt and I have talked about through this is that I know shops in my area, and there's thousands of shops in Southern California, and there is a lot of competition for the stack 'em high, watch 'em fly guys who had a much better time in the heyday of car audio in the mid 90s, late 90s. And these days, if they don't know what they're doing, they're starting to kind of fall off and go away. But there's a lot of guys that have this mentality that they can do an amp install, like a guy should be able to do an amp install in an hour or two.
Yeah.
And in my shop, we spend an hour or two at the battery.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, exactly. Oh no, trust me, because Fernando goes, he's building this battery, somebody coined him the Fernando fancy fuse mounts. And so he was building the fuse mount one day, and I looked at him, I go, what the hell are you doing? He goes, I saw this thing Gary did. I want to replicate that. And I go, you got to show me a picture of what he did, man, because he was over there for like 45 minutes, and I'm like, which is fine. It's like I don't care. Whatever he needs to do, because that's the first thing we're showing somebody when we pop the hood. When I walk out to a car, the first thing I do is I pop the hood and I say, this is your fuse holder. This is where the fuse goes. This is how it works. Because, they don't necessarily live here, and they might have to service their battery. And it's like, I at least want you to know where your fuse holder is. Everything else you can forget. This is important. So if it looks like crap, then, so it's like, you have to see this. So if he needs an extra half hour to make the battery look good, do it. I don't care. I mean, we've charged for it. That's what Paul always tells me. He goes, "Oh, I've charged for that." I'll be like, "Did you?" He'd be like, "Yeah." I'm like, all right, fine.
Yeah, and for the shops that are getting like $150 flat rate for an amp install, you got to understand the way that you can sell that for more is you have to build the value. You got to articulate that to the client, show them, articulate how most shops do it, and then what you've done, right? Because when your install looks like it's done by the manufacturer, or it's an option from the manufacturer, that's where you build value. And that's where customers, we've already talked about a guy driving from Michigan to get a radio done because he knew it was going to be done right. People are willing to spend the money to have it done correct the first time. And all you have to do is articulate and build the value in the sales process. And the sales process never stops, even when it becomes to that demo and you're like, here's a fuse bracket, it's on a piece of aluminum or ABS or whatever, and it's done correctly. It's not zip tied to a harness.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I was gonna say, Matt, you sound very much like you're talking to industry insiders, which we know we have half industry people and half consumer listening in. But from a consumer standpoint, we see a lot of cars where we're fixing old installs or repairing or upgrading the sound, and the stuff we uncover is insane. And it's really from those rushed installs where they've only billed you for an hour or two, and they have to get it done in an hour and two. And there's the number of firewall grommets that we see pushed in wire either ran around or like they didn't put the grommet back in, and it's like, you wonder why your floor gets wet when it rains and your carpet stinks and like.
So we call those 911s. We just flat out call them 911s. And I could film and put up 911 videos every day of the week, and people would love us till the cows come home. Like, those are our most viewed and watched videos. Anytime we put 911 in the title, it's like, oh God, yes, we're going to sit back and watch. And it's usually like the first two videos. It's like the first 20 minutes of the videos, us just deconstructing, we're doing the Indiana Jones archaeologist dig slowly through the car and taking the people through everything that was done wrong so that some of the people that are watching can go, oh, I did my install like that. I shouldn't have done that. It's like, no, you shouldn't have. Don't do this. And like we took this one car apart, and they had Stinger 9000 cables in it, and they had literally crushed them with the back seat. And I'm going, this guy has hundreds of dollars worth of cables that are useless now. Like, we got to throw these things away. We literally, he had stuff that was cutting out and problems that he was having. And it was like, sorry, dude, these are going in the trash can. We're not reusing these. And, that was this tear that kind of rolled down his cheek. And I was like, yeah, here we are. And we kind of have a policy that anything that comes in, we're going to strip it, put it back to factory, and then we're going to start. So, even if we're going to have to, we'll literally get a car in, take it all apart, solder up all the connectors or wires that were cut, rebuild the harnesses, retape everything back up, and get it to where if the dealer was to look at it, they could plug all the factory stuff that's missing back into it, and then that's when we start. Right. And we go from there.
That's a good policy. That would have saved my butt a few times.
Well, we had to do that because people were just showing up with stuff, and it's like, and it was an argument between me and the owner of like, listen, man, you're either going to get paid for us to fix this, or we're just going to do it for free. So you need to decide. But we're not. Anything that leaves here that we've touched is now our responsibility. So we can either fix it, or it can come back and they can blame us. I don't have time for that. We got it in the bay now. Let's just do it right and we'll move on. Yeah,
it's good. If you picture that being like a body shop putting out the same quality of work, and then it came to you to paint a fender or something, you're like, no, we need to get this thing on the frame machine, and we need to
just slap some Bondo on it.
Panels. Yeah,
just slap some Bondo. No one will ever see the backside of that. That'll be fine. But no, that was so we have certain things that we have in place that it's like, okay, you need to charge extra because there's this going on. And that's weird. That's one of those weird things that this industry also has a hard time with. It's like when you pull a panel off and you find something that wasn't supposed to be the way it is, and it's like, that's going to take me an hour to fix. Like I just had home improvements done, and the guy has no problem calling me and saying, hey, I found this that I need to fix. It's going to be another $200. Okay, hey, I just pulled your factory radio out and there's half the harness is cut in half. We're going to have to solder it back together. That's going to be 45 minutes. We're going to charge another, $80 to do that. What are you going to tell me? No? I mean, come pick up your car. We'll put it all back the way it was. You can go. I got another car waiting. We'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, our industry is very weird. I don't know the type of people that evolved into our industry that they're just scared of the no.
Yeah. Well, they're sales. It's sales guys. I mean, my owner's the same way. We can always tell. Was this somebody we talked to, or is this somebody he talked to? And so it'll be like Fernando will pull the car in, and I'll just look at the equipment and go, "Is the guy who owns the car still here? I need to go have a talk with him."
Like a perfect example of this is like, at our shop, we had a random client with the BMW X5. He got a lot of like match plug and play stuff. It wasn't, I guess, how he envisioned it. The tune wasn't how he envisioned it. He was kind of unhappy. On the sound effects side, we tried to fix it the best we could, but let him know that like, listen, we would have went a totally different direction with this. And Brian Layton told me to call the client and pitch him something different, right? So I spent maybe 10 minutes with this guy on the phone and told him how I would have sold it from a client up front, articulated the benefits of everything that he would get off the bat. And I told Brian, before I called the guy, I said, 100% this guy will do what I'm pitching him because I know how to talk about it. I know how to articulate it. I know that he's going to want the benefit of this equipment because this is why he's coming back saying that he's not happy with this initial install that another shop did. So spent 10 minutes with the guy. And the big key here is you got to know what the fuck you're talking about. You got to know how to talk to clients about certain product that you're pitching them. Because if they're not seeing a value, and if you're not articulating a value in the equipment that you're pitching them, they're just not going to do it. Well, 10 minutes with this guy yielded like an extra 15 grand on this job for the guy to come back in and do it all how we would have done it. We can keep some of the stuff. And I said, this is fine here, but we need to change this. We need to change this. And we need to change this. And I can promise you that you are going to be blown away with the end result. And the other thing with that is you have to deliver on that. You got to, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh no, that's
you got to do it.
There's plenty of shops that'll sell you that.
Oh my
right?
God.
There's shops that'll sell you that, but
that's the stuff that keeps me up at night.
And Gary and I have talked about this numerous times on the podcast that there's so many. The reference across our industry for what good audio is drastically different. And I know I can sell you on how good of the audio is going to be represented from what we do for an hour. But I know that I'll over deliver on that based on what your expectation is.
Right.
Right. So I can do that with the client as well. And I can tell him, listen, I can promise you, you would have never sat in a car that sounds anything like this if you let us do this.
Yeah.
And every time we deliver, because again, their expectation is nowhere close to what that end result is.
Well, I mean, so one of the biggest things when we interact with manufacturers, which one of the side benefits of doing this and you know, doing the YouTube thing is it's opened a lot of doors for us to go in and talk with manufacturers and sign our lives away on the NDAs so we can't talk about anything. And but the most popular question I get from all of them is the same thing. It's like, how do we sell DSP? How do we sell DSP? It's like, how do you not sell DSP? I mean, it's like, and it's funny because like if I'm not doing a DSP in a car, I'm like, why are we doing this? I mean, and it's like, and Fernando just laughs. He's like, God, we almost sound pompous. And it's like, no, it's like, it's a tool that we can fix stuff and we can take it to that next level and we can deliver on the promise that we gave that customer. It's like, you know, if a guy comes in and he's like, I want to buy all this stuff. And he's like, I just want a radio. And it's like, okay, but what about if we add this DSP instead? And they're like, why? And so you just kind of like explain why, and okay, and it's like, and we, you know, I don't know. That was the biggest, saddest thing. Like the funniest one that we had was with Kicker, was with the Q class, and them having to, you know, it came an end of life product, but at the end we got on board with it because I didn't even know the product existed and it had a DSP and all this stuff. And I'm literally there talking with them. We're like, well, we have that. And I'm like, you do? Like, yeah, it's right here. And they gave it to me and I'm looking, I'm going, oh my God, like, how long have you had this? Like 6 years?
Yeah, I was going to say that. I remember that coming out. That's been a while.
And I'm like, you've had this. It's so like the end of life for that went off great because we started talking about it and started promoting it and we started using it in cars. And then it had the end of life, and they were like, "Sorry, man, we got to stop building this." And I was like, and people were pissed because like they and I was like, I mean, it had to end of life because it wasn't efficient and it was a 6-year-old design and all this other fun stuff. But yeah, I mean, I always listen to you guys talk about that. It's like the shops that don't do DSP, that don't understand how an Amp Pro works, or a Zen A to B, or a Zen module for that, or you know, are willing to just get in there and like read the instruction manual for God's sakes and, you know, just take a chance.
Yeah, I think that it's one of those things to where everybody has to start somewhere and at some time with DSP. And it has to be, out of everything I've ever learned with car audio, it has to be the most challenging and frustrating thing that I've ever come across. And but it takes some time. You have to, it's like anything that's worth learning, you have to put in some effort, you have to take the time, you have to have the trial and error, and you will get better and better and better and better with it. But you have to get in there. You have to jump in and start. And there's no better way. There is no reason that every installer out there should not have a DSP in his car and at least be learning to tune his own car and learning the software, even if it's just picking one brand and one processor to kind of master. We see literally everything in my shop, and there are times where it's frustrating, software updates and compatibility issues and that kind of stuff, and it makes you have your favorites. You know,
Well, I try to. I've got a shelf of just like, I think there's 10 or 15 different DSPs from every different manufacturer you could possibly think of. Some they've sent us, some I've bought. It's like when we talk to somebody, it's like, do you have a DSP? Yeah, send it to me. Why? Because I just want to look at it. I want to play with it. I want to find out what it'll do. You know, my laptop, my work laptop is just like, it's all just DSP software across the top of it. And it's like, you know, it's like we were doing a Helix today. We'll do an audio control tomorrow. We could do a JL at the end of the week. An Alpine might slip in there. It's like, there's just core features that once you understand what those core features are, everything else is just salt and pepper to make it sound good. But I mean, I remember the first time I had to deal with a DSP. It was a really great customer. He's like, I really want a DSP. And I was like, okay, let's do a DSP. And he goes, I'll just leave you my car for the day and you can just do whatever you need to do. So the first day I just sat in this guy's car all day and just worked with the software, figured out what it could do. And I got about halfway through it, and it was the end of the day, and I gave him back his car, and I said, all right, well, you're going to have to come back in like 2 weeks, and we'll finish setting it up, but this is as far as I got today, so just enjoy that. And he was like, okay, cool, you know, and it sounded 100% better than what he had, so he didn't care, but, you know, it was nice enough for him to do that, and I was like, all right, this is awesome. So, you know, that led to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, and now it's just like, you know, you almost sit there and go, we're not putting in a DSP? What are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, well, every single car in modern day cars, they're going to have some sort of a DSP in there from the factory, right? And that is the easiest way to kind of articulate it to clients is, listen, we are at a technological age, and because of DSP, manufacturers can put cheaper equipment in a car, right? Because they can mask what these drivers are doing. And we've seen that over the years where the drivers become kind of more poor quality because they can tune the car to make that...
Shine the turd.
Yeah, they can make that paper and plastic speaker sound the best that will ever sound in 1,000 years. And because of DSP, it also creates another problem with kind of our industry because shops that don't know how to tune a DSP, they have a hard time of getting the same type of staging that some of the OEM systems come with nowadays because now it's kind of harder to identify speaker placement and stuff like that. So, you know, the best analogy that I give is kind of like two types of analogies. One is always going back to, you know, TV and video because that shit gets shoved down our throat with 1080p and 4K and like we've been on that evolution of TV, right?
Yeah.
So like, you know, the DLP TV, it's in the 90s, we never thought it would get any better. It was amazing. It was beautiful. We're like, this TV's a shit. It's $5,000. It doesn't matter. It's the best. Like, imagine today in 2021 watching, you know, sports on a DLP TV. Like, it would be impossible, right?
I mean,
because of your reference now.
I'm a late bloomer on cool TVs. I'm not going to lie. It's like, you know, it's like I took forever to get rid of our CRT and then I bought a plasma and it's like,
but it doesn't, you know, matter like, because you had a reference of knowing what a modern day TV looks like.
Yeah.
Right. You, even though you didn't have that TV, you knew what the best picture of whatever year it was would look like.
Oh yeah. I just had two angry girls living here going, Dad, husband, buy us a new TV. I'm like, I'm not watching it, so I don't care.
Yeah, most people have that reference, but with audio, it's completely different. Like, most people have no idea what audio can sound like when it's done right.
Oh, this is true.
It's emotional. It is moving. It's an out of body experience. And when it comes to a car, there's so much magic that happens because you know where the drivers are, right? You can see the drivers. You know the subs in the back. But when all of the locations that you can stare at disappear, it creates magic. And it doesn't even make sense for moments in time when you're listening to music, right?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I do a lot of A-pillars, and a lot of the first couple things that clients do is like they'll put their hands over the drivers, and they're like, and I'm like, you don't think it's playing? You know, because that's the first idea that they have. They're like, is this even playing? Because I'm like, yeah, there's no speaker in the center, but their idea is like, this is weird, right? And the sub, you know, they're hearing it play from the hood, and they're just like, it just doesn't make sense. Where when you're in a home system, it does make sense because you can see the speakers, you place yourself in the center, and you get imaging, right? Subliminally, you know what to do, but in a car, it's like a mind fuck because you're on the left side. You're like, I imagine hearing all these speakers, but I'm not,
Yeah.
right? So, and you know, this kind of goes back to some of our older podcasts, is like the best demo that you can give, in my opinion, and I've done a lot of good demos, is with the NPR Tiny Desk concert.
Oh no, dude, trust me.
Because
After
you
you
can take
did that
phone,
show, we had to go watch a ton of them. We had
Yeah.
a car in the bay, and I go, Fernando, they were
Yeah.
just talking last night about this NPR thing, and
Yeah.
so we sat, dude. We were tuning the car. We got done with it, and I go, all right, grab the NPR thing that they were talking about. So you sucked an hour of our you know of our lives just sitting there while we're in this car, and I was like, set it right there on the radio screen. We're gonna go full Matty on this one.
Yeah, I'm telling you, like, and my favorite one is definitely, for the people listening, it's Leon Bridges' NPR Tiny Desk. You put that on the center of your dashboard, and there's no debating the soundstage at that point, right?
They did a really good job on those.
Because you, like, everything will reflect 100%. If you've done your job, that'll reflect 100%, and the client sees that, and you're telling the client, you know, just sit back, watch this, embrace it. And after you're done watching most of those concerts, you feel like you just watched that in person. You feel like you just had a personal concert that happened in front of you, and there's no debating that.
So one of the things that we've been working on to help people with this for the last 2 years, I've been working with an engineer, is we actually have a tool coming out. So we've come out with a device that plugs into an iPhone. It's called an IRTA2, and it's designed to, it has 2 channels of electrical and 2 channels of so both 2 channels high level, 2 channels of low level electrical input that you can feed your stereo into, and you can turn on and off the switches. It's kind of like what Ken built, but we actually took it and had it designed specifically for the phone, had it made, had it engineered. But so now you can take a tweeter from left and right, plug them into this device, turn them both on, turn one off, take a mid-range and a tweeter, and you can physically see everything that is happening with that interaction. So now
As a scope or as RTA?
it's an
or
RTA.
what?
It's an
Okay.
RTA. So it's a 2-channel RTA mixer that'll plug into an iPhone or a DMRTA or a PA3X or PA3 or a Mentalizer or whatever it is. But it's just this cool little box. It's about yay big. You know, it's like 4x4x1. Has some switches and a bunch of crap inside that we paid to have made. But what the idea was is most of these shops and most of these installers or the DIY guys or whoever it is, they have no way to get into an electrical RTA that is a reasonable amount of money. So, you know, you buy a PA3X right now and they're $600. It's ridiculous. But you can buy a mic kit for $150 and you can do an audio test. Well, if you don't know what you're feeding into the DSP or whatever, then you're pretty much, you know, you could be screwed. You know, if it has an all-pass filter that you can't use and you want to get rid of, or just knowing where the all-pass filter is so that you can use it to work to your benefit. Or if you're going to sum something together that shouldn't be summed. So I was approached by an engineer, and he was like, I'm thinking about coming out with this device. And I was like, let's do it. So we're going to be selling those soon.
Cool.
So that's kind of the evolution of what we've been trying to do, is come up with things. Like we worked with Brian to come out with the wire ruler. I don't know, just make neat stuff.
Definitely cool. I'll wait for mine. Let me know. Put me on the list.
I won't say anything. Anyways,
he's like no. He's like, it's $9,999.
No, they're gonna be $250.
Ah, that's more than reasonable.
Yeah,
his whole argument was it had to be affordable.
Yeah, it had to be affordable. It had to be something that anyone could buy and immediately, because I mean, let's be honest. Even if you're just gonna put a sub with a high level to low level adapter, the difference between a Chrysler front speaker and a Chrysler rear speaker is night and day. Most people they're just going to hook it up to that rear speaker, and it's like, dude, all your bass is coming from your front speaker. And we shot a video the other day where we literally showed that. We're like, this is the front speaker, this is the rear speaker, front, rear, front, rear, front, rear. You want to use the front speaker, and now you'll be able to do that and have it. So there'll be no excuse for a shop to go, I didn't want to pull out my DMRTA and plug it into my laptop, or I didn't want to. I can't afford a handheld, which, to be honest, they're expensive. I mean, not everyone can afford one of those. So, I mean, how many do you have?
Well, I guess you could always do REW with like a Dayton USB mic and spend $120 or so.
Well, that's just it though. That only is going to give the audio side.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I don't want to. We can edit this part out, but we do it another way. That's much easier and cheaper.
You just use your ears?
No. We run into REW, but I have a resistor box.
Okay.
And it
Yep.
was $20 a parts. And
yeah. Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
Voltage divider, and there you go.
Yeah.
Gary
what's funny?
is the value king.
Oh, of course.
I feel like at
so
some point Gary's gonna have his own podcast called the Value Podcast.
Right, there you go. Okay, so we're right back to it. One of the things, one of my local reps always questions like, oh, did you test the signal in that car? Did you test the signal in that car? And I always look at him funny, and I'm like, the answer to that, and the answer is no. No, I didn't. And it's so counterintuitive to what everybody else does and says. And here's what I tell them. I go, look, I'm doing this car either way, right? No matter what I find in that scenario, it doesn't matter. And again, these are cars that I have done a little bit of research on. If it has an all-pass filter or not, I'm not worried about it beforehand.
Right.
Right? It doesn't
change. Am I keeping this in the podcast or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You edited out that other thing back a minute ago, but this you can keep in. So literally, this is my take on this in a lot of cars, is that I'm going to grab the signal that I know I need, right? And I'm going to run it into my DSP or my DSP amp, and then I'm going to take the low-level output out of that DSP, and I'm going to run it into REW, and I can look at any channel. I can sum channels together inside that, and I actually use the DSP I'm putting in the car, because I'm putting the DSP in either way. Right?
Oh, yeah.
If there's no digital interface available, if there's not a Zen module or an Amp Pro, I'm grabbing signal. I usually have enough idea of the system architecture going in that I'm, obviously I know if I need 24 channels of input or something insane, but I'm never worried about it. We'll find the way to interface, but I have to hook it up either way, and it makes it easier with just using
my example was more of just the basic. If you But no, what you're saying is 100% true. It's like the only thing I'm concerned with is how many channels are we having to deal with.
Right.
That's it.
Yep.
And that's like the number one thing we tell people when they'll call up or they'll ask. They'll be like, "Hey, I have this card. I just want to use this 6-channel high level to low level adapter." And I'll be like, "Okay, no, you have to count the channels. How many channels are there? Or are you just are you just going to get like front tweeter, front mid, and sub those together, and you don't need anything else? Is there anything happening in the back? Like, are there backup sensors in the car that we need to retain? I mean, you got to do your research, man."
And to be fair, I have some pretty stubborn opinions on the way systems are laid out around my my place, you know. So in the majority of those vehicles, we're doing things that eliminate a lot of those issues. We rarely hook up rear speakers in a car. If we do, they're running off of the factory system and it's faded forward, and we retain any backup sensors at normal volume. And part of that's by design. It's keeping the cost down, it's getting the highest value on the audio upgrade up front, and it's retaining those features. And we know that we need to end up with a full range sound, and sometimes the easiest way to handle that is just to go channel for channel in and out. And it's like, hey, what problem?
100%. I mean, that's basically how we look at it. It's like when a guy comes in, he's like, "This is the budget I have," and you're like, "Okay, what do you want to do?" And it's like, "All right, let's dial this back a little bit. Let's really approach it for what you're talking to me about, which is you really want an awesome set of front speakers and you want some bass. That's called the front stage upgrade. Let's put in a really set of let's do an awesome set of speakers up front. You know, we'll roadkill it, fastering it, or sound treatment, fastering it. Do all the stuff that we need to in these doors. If we have to do channel for channel, we'll do channel for channel. If there's a module, we'll put the module in. And exactly what you're talking about. This is where we're focused. And that's it. And we walk away from it. And it leaves, like, I've heard you say it enough on the show. It's like, well, if we need to do rear speakers, we have an output on the DSP. We can always come back later and put in a small 2-channel amp with some rear speakers. So we're not killing the sale. We're just concentrating on this today because this is what we have the budget for.
Yeah.
Plus, from a sales side, when you're constrained to a car that doesn't have a Zen module or a pack interface for the amp, that's where your sales comes into play, because you can always add additional sources with multiple DSPs to give them a different source. And one of the biggest oversights I think that a lot of salespeople do is you can pair any Bluetooth interface, right? That's at least going to be a digital signal in, that's going to be essentially a perfect signal, 20 to 20K, unclipped. There's no dumbass crossovers that you have to deal with. There's no summing. It's a perfect signal. And you can Bluetooth, because most people are connecting their phone to listen to audio. So you can connect their phone to that Bluetooth interface and the factory at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? If the car has CarPlay and you're plugged in with the lightning cable or whatever, you can still do that. And you can still get the information on the factory radio, but you're diverting audio directly to the DSP, getting a perfect signal on a secondary preset. So all of the bullshit that we just talked about with the factory radio, it doesn't really matter unless they're using the factory radio for a few different sources like Sirius. But even I would make the argument that you can play Sirius from your phone on an app and get a better signal because you're using a digital signal versus a satellite signal, which is about 64 kilobytes per second. But anything that you're playing through your phone, which is most clients, 95% of the clients, that Bluetooth source is going to yield you way better quality for like an extra $400 or so.
Oh, yeah.
So why dick around with the factory and all the different summing and all that kind of stuff when, as long as you can articulate it to the client, if you don't have a MoBridge or a Nav TV or a pack interface, let's just do this and worry about this. And then if you want to go beyond that, if the equipment in your car can yield the results to justify the investment, maybe do a Astel and Kern player or some other high-res app and get the results that way.
Matt, were you saying, because I've never done this in a car before, steering wheel controls in that scenario
volume,
active,
no.
Right?
Volume, no, because that's going to be
controller.
through your controller, because you're digitally connected. And then obviously the track forward and track back of steering wheel controls on most cars will work. I would say 90% of cars will still work. There's probably 10% of cars where the second that you interface a track forward on the factory radio, it'll divert the Bluetooth back to the factory.
Gotcha.
But volume is going to work independently. Everything else will work through the display. And then if you're worried about Bluetooth integration or factory chimes, any of that, we put the center channel, which most cars have, modern cars, on a switch, to where you can turn the switch on, which reconnects the center channel back to the factory radio, and you can flip it. You just don't play music on the factory radio. So if you're doing a different source, you don't play music. But obviously, if you're doing CarPlay, the music's already diverted to your Bluetooth piece, which means the factory is not playing music, and all your chimes, your navigation, and all that stuff through the factory radio is still going to work through that center channel, the Bluetooth, all that stuff. So it's like a hack where you're diverting audio perfectly digitally to the DSP, but everything else that's important, like Bluetooth, that wouldn't divert, is still playing through the center channel.
Interesting.
I had
One of these days.
I first saw that Jeff Smith stop by. He's like, we went out to his car, and he uses his car as kind of a lab for a lot of the stuff that they're doing there. And he was doing something, and I'm like, wait a minute, what are you doing? And so I had him show me all that he was doing, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. He was like, yeah, man. I was like, oh, okay. But then they came out with an Amp Pro, so that solved that whole headache.
Yeah, and like I said on the Amp Pros, you don't have to be so stressed when it comes down to, like, like the Tesla. The Tesla that I just did, perfect example. They changed this Tesla from the previous gen Teslas, and things like notifications, like if the charge port was in the port charging and you try and drive, it creates a beep. That beep only comes through the center channel. Before, it would come through the other speakers. Bluetooth comes through the other speakers, but there's very specific chimes that only came through the center. So that means I had to mix the factory center in with the factory preset, right?
Yeah.
This was an overwhelming amount. It wasn't an upmix system, but there was specific chimes that only came through that center. So it created issues with the factory preset.
Was this the Plaid, or was this?
It was a Plaid, yeah.
You guys heard about the one that crashed, right? The one here,
Uh-uh.
the one here in Florida, that the guy jumped it like 85 feet.
Oh gosh.
Sounds like a Florida story.
Oh, it's totally a Florida story. So the guy, it was a group of guys. It's really a sad story because there's ties to the industry. A bunch of guys were known, but it was the guy that was driving the car turns out to be one of my former installers.
Oh gosh.
2 people died because when the car jumped the curb, it literally crashed through the back of a house, and the lady that was sitting in the back of the house obviously died. One of the passengers died. Actually, the guy that owned the car was in the passenger seat. He passed away. But the pictures of this car, just type in like Palm Harbor Tesla Plaid, and they have pictures of the car. It's destroyed this car. But they hit just the little, the little curbs, the little things that little 30-degree curb, full speed, and the car launched about 85 feet from the curb to the house. Not in the air, just distance. And I was, whoa, it was insane. That car, that car is insanely fast. Apparently, you'd know more than me, but yeah.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, but anyways, happy news. Back to your experience with the Plaid.
Yeah, but like I said, the way to articulate that to a client, because a lot of clients aren't going to understand you getting into the weeds of different descriptions of what we know. So, the best way to describe it that I've found is, again, with video. The factory signal is like 480p. Essentially, that's going to be like a 480p signal. It's like if you're watching a local football game on a local broadcast and it's going to be grainy, it's going to look like shit. And then the Bluetooth is going to be more like probably like 1080p-ish, because you have a full bandwidth of signal there that is unobstructed. It's flat. You don't have to worry about crossovers and all that kind of stuff and summing things together. You're pretty much getting an organic signal in. And then when you use the player, it's more of like a 4K signal, because that is the DAX of that player is giving you the additional width, the depth that you're just not getting from using a phone, right? So they can understand those different things because they already know and have envisioned what those differences are. It doesn't take somebody who's trained to understand the difference between, 480p versus 1080p or 4K, right? You don't need to be a video file, right?
Aren't we all? No.
It looks more like real life, right? And the same thing with audio. Like the whole audiophile term, I think is misconstrued, because at the end of the day, we either know if something sounds real or if it doesn't. And anyone can discern that, I think.
Well, I think that's the same thing with levels. Like you guys both take pictures, you've studied that, you edit pictures, you take good pictures, and you are looking for different things in those pictures than I am, because I haven't spent any time. You can put a picture and I can say, hey, that one's more in focus than this one is, right? But the color might be off, and I might be, I don't know. And you're like, well, you could tell because the shadow on this thing is whatever it is. I don't know what it is.
Gary, here's the thing that's different though, is if you see a picture in a magazine, right?
What's a magazine?
If that is a magazine picture or it's not, right? If it's a shitty picture, subliminally you're going to be like, man, that's a shitty picture, right? You know that without knowing it. You know if you're looking at a good picture.
Right. But again, that doesn't...
It means you can identify a good picture, and you don't have to be somebody who's studies pictures.
I can identify, like, if you just randomly put pictures in front of me, right, and they were on a scale from 1 to 100, right, I could group them in 25% increments. Like, this is a bottom 25, this is a 26 to 50, this is a 50 to 75, but I don't know the difference between an 80 and an 87. That's what I'm saying.
And that's fair, because you'll have a client with an $8,000 system that you demo, right? They get an $8,000 system, and they're going to be like, holy shit, this is the best fucking thing I've ever listened to, right? Same thing with the $35,000 job or a $50,000 job. They're going to be like, this is the best thing I've ever heard. But it's the reference that is the dispute.
Well,
right?
So I have this story for kind of reference. In the living room, I've always had a great stereo. And so it's on all the time. Like, the receiver turns on when the TV turns on. So everything we watch is always in surround. I have all Morel home audio. Right now I have an audio control receiver. It's all amplified. So there's giant amplifiers that power everything. So when it turns up, the house gets hotter, and I'm like, I don't care. You just see the power thing spinning. It's like, I don't care. It's been like that for 30 years. It's just how it is. So Haley grew up listening to that. So anytime we watch a movie, it's like, sit down. I have two 12-inch subwoofers in the corner and band passes. So it's like, there is no shortage of sound. When we turn on a movie, this whole house is just like, but even just watching her crappy reality stuff, it's still centers there, the left and right. So we go to the mall, and they have a Bose store there, and I was looking at the new Bose, crazy headphones with the super whatever to kill the airplane noise. And I'm trying them on, and she's standing looking around. The guy comes up and goes, hey, man, we just got Batman vs. Superman 15-minute trailer, and you want to come into our theater room and hear it? And I looked at Haley, and she's like, yeah, sure, why not? So we walk in there. We sit through the whole thing, and we get up, and we're like, hey, man, thanks. I just came to look at the headphones, but, thanks for showing me this. Sound really great and whatever. So we walk out. We're going down the escalator to hook up with Sue. And she looks up at me, and she goes, was that supposed to sound good? And that's one of those dad moments you hugged her and you go, I love you, honey. I love you so much. Because she knew, it's like she grew up with the reference of what we've listened to every day, and wasn't it at all. And she was like, no, man, nah, not a chance. But subconsciously, she just took it all in. But to me, it was just a great example of what you're describing, that she can tell the difference without even realizing she can tell the difference.
Right. And sometimes that gap is wider. There are systems that are so amazing that anything in comparison is going to sound terrible.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right? Like, and it's when we started this, Matt, we started with this conversation of where do you put yourself on that scale, right? Like being an audiophile, like it means different things to different people, and they have different experiences listening to music and different references, and
I think my definition of audiophile is you're willing to spend $1 to get better sound.
Okay.
Think about that for a minute and chew on it. You're willing to spend at least $1 to enjoy a better sound.
I mean, for me, I just look at it like for the past 30 years, I don't know how this still exists. Like, we wake up every day and we put audio in people's cars. Like, when you really look at that, it doesn't make any sense. Of all the businesses that have failed in the past 30 years, and this is still a thriving business, like there's no camera stores anymore. You know, the family hardware store is gone, but somehow there's still independent car stereo retailers that are doing more business than big box.
Well, and that's because I think it's more involved, and it takes more work and more expertise now. And so what once was this big wide industry has now scaled back, and the average level is coming up. The shops that couldn't learn to integrate as cars got more difficult to integrate with have fallen off.
Well,
but
it still exists though. I mean,
oh yeah,
it's just insane.
It always will, and just like performance shops, right? Like, you know, in the 70s, everybody wanted a set of headers on their car and a big V8 and all that kind of stuff. And those shops have made it through. Some of them have, right? There's still performance shops.
Yeah.
But it's not like it used to be. Kids don't care about cars the way they used to. And, you know, it's just the whole automotive scene has changed in such a way. And any of that stuff, yeah, it is amazing that all of that made it through.
Well, that's why good salespeople need to exist, because, you know, and I've said this before on the podcast, is everyone has indispensable income. It doesn't matter if you're broke as a joke. You still spend your money on something.
Well, there's always another pocket.
Yeah, there's always something. And my job is to make that audio, to move you in a way that makes you feel like this is the most necessary thing for you to find your escape in life. And it's easier and easier to do as politics and the world gets crazier and crazier.
As you come more and more sure that the world is going to end.
Yeah. Because you could just sit in a car, and I threw my neighbor in one of the cars that I did, because it's like, I would really love to know what the fuck a car that somebody spends this much money on sounds like.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I'll text you, you'll come over, and I'll do a legitimate demo for you like you're the client. And he came over, and his words to me were, I absolutely get it, because this is like a sense of therapy.
Oh,
that I can sit in this car, and just me sitting in this car not caring about audio, I feel like I'm disconnected from the world, and I can find myself in this moment right now just listening to this music in a way that I never have before. And it's emotional, dude. I've had numerous grown men cry in a car before.
I mean,
it just does something to people that you don't even expect. Like a text that I got the other day from this Tesla client. He said, I've demoed the system now to 5 friends. It's funny watching people's reaction. What's even funnier is when 3 middle-aged white men get out of a blackened out Tesla after blasting EDM music, cars shaking. The look on people's faces walking by is priceless. Everyone needs to hear what this car sounds like.
That's good.
Well, you know, one of the things that the show that we do has, like the comments I like to read that kind of like, oh, this is why I'm doing this, is I'll get comments, at least one a day, where somebody be like, you know, I was back in, I did car audio back in the 80s and 90s, and, you know, then life happened, but watching this, you know, now I'm looking for I'm looking to put a stereo in my car. you know, and it's like I'm back into it now. It's exciting, you know, because the kids are doing what they need to do. The house is what it is, and it's like I can finally get back to that thing that I really enjoyed doing when I was younger, which is audio. And just like, I get to read those stories at least once a day, and it's great because it's like, the reason why I'm doing this. I mean, the side effect of what we're doing is like I make a living and you make a living and you make a living off of car audio. This is where we've put up our tents, and this is so, you know, I looked at it like, let's create this so that people will still come and buy our stuff. And we'll show them the fun that this is. It's like, this is cool stuff that we're playing with cool stuff. Don't you want to come play in our sandbox? You know?
It really is. I told you, Matt, I think in one of our rare unrecorded conversations that I actually went to a concert last week. Like, and it'd been a long time since I'd gone and seen a live show. And sitting there like literally 10 feet from the stage and having that experience again just got me more and more pumped to come back and to listen to music in a car.
Well, who did you see?
Spoon.
Okay. Oh, all right.
One of my
your band.
One of my wife's wife's favorite bands, and we got to see him in a really small venue, 600 people, and it was awesome. And you forget that as much as we constantly push this sound stage and width and depth, like there is still some turn it to 11 shit that needs to be done.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You still like, and you can't get that.
You're still playing your LL Cool J Bad?
Yeah, of course.
Oh no,
of course.
You know, we'll build systems like that. Like we'll shoot videos, and it's like we're not doing our normal thing, and it's like, well, I have to start the video by going, okay, listen, everybody, let me tell you this story of why we're putting this in this car, because I know that they're all going to say, why didn't you do this or why didn't you do that? It's because that's not what the customer wanted. The customer wanted to get in the car and have his eyelids rolled back over his head, and he wanted the bass to just smack him until there was no tomorrow. So that's what he's getting. This is his system. So we're building his dream system for him. You know,
I love that because making YouTube videos now is way different than I made YouTube videos when I started.
Oh yeah,
because I have to answer all the questions up front that I know is going to get railed in the comments.
Right. They're still going to be there. You can just go back and watch the beginning where I said, this is why, like we're working right now. The video that's up and like we're segmenting through is this Mazda Miata we did. And the customer came to me, and it was a really sad story. So the gentleman isn't going to be with us for that much longer. He's in that point in his life, and he has a high-end bookshelf speaker system in his house, and he's always wanted it in his car. So he's an audiophile, I guess, in the sense that he has a bunch of DSD files and FLAC files and all that stuff. And he's like, I want to be able to play these in my car and hear them like I hear them in my house before I leave. And I was like, okay. He goes, so I want a full badged high-res audio system in my car. And I'm looking at the car, and I'm like, all right, well, there's like you're 6'2", and your other guy that is there is also 6'2", so like we're not putting a subwoofer in here anywhere. And he's like, that's fine. I just want to monitor sound. I said, all right, well, you know, Kenwood makes all this XR high-res audio system from start to finish. It's all badged high-res audio stuff. And he's like, perfect. Show me what it is. Put the whole system together for him. You know, they're big, oversized 7-inch in the door and all this stuff. So we took out all the Bose crap, and we put this full high-res system in there. And he got in there, and he's like, this is exactly what I wanted. Thank you. And that was it. And we said all this at the beginning, other than the fact that he wasn't going to be with us for much longer. I was like, this is what this guy wants. And then everyone's like, well, why didn't you use Focal? And why didn't you use this? Or why didn't you put that in? And it's like, what part of badged high-res audio system did you not get? He had criteria that we had to meet. It isn't my car. This isn't your car. It's the customer's car. And this customer wants this. So guess what? It's what
Heaven forbid you post something like that.
No. And I laugh at this point.
I have a Bentley video where the guy, because of his budget, he got Focal Flax and not Utopia. And it's a Bentley. And they're like, why would this guy own a Bentley and not get Utopia? Like, dude, that I don't know. That's his budget.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Put it in anyway? Like,
Yeah.
come on. What are we doing here?
Yeah, but it's stuff like that I just laugh at. I mean, it's like, hey man, you know, we're making dreams come true here. They're not your dreams. They're the customer's dreams. So
Just don't go on TikTok.
Because
the comments you'll get when you post the audio system that I just did is you'll get people who are 19 being like, Elon said that was the best sound system ever made.
yeah.
Right.
Why would you change it?
Yeah. I mean, we still get that. You know, it's like when a guy will ask, well, why are you getting rid of a perfectly brand new Ford F-150 factory stereo? It sounds just fine. And it's like, first off, thank you for commenting. I mean, it helps the video do better, so thank you there. But it didn't work for this customer. Believe it or not.
Right.
Not everybody is the same. It's okay.
At a higher reference.
You know, it's okay, man. It's you're gonna sleep at night, I'm assuming. So it'll all be good. It'll all be
Yeah,
good.
and like I said, that all goes back to my DLP TV comment. It's like at one point we could all agree from the entire country that a DLP TV was the shit. Right? We all agreed.
Yeah.
There's nobody that would be like, man, that TV sucks. But your reference changes.
Yeah.
And in audio, it is much harder to understand the evolution and what's possible for sound quality. Because again, you can take somebody who doesn't care anything about sound quality, put them in a car that sounds like what we're talking about, and they're going to be blown away. You're going to feel like you haven't ever used your ears before when that happens.
Well, I have one more thought as we were talking about coining the term like audiophile, right? I know that there is a large group of people, and I may include myself in this group. I have to think about this as I say it, but that are constantly in pursuit of better sound. And when that comes to the home audio world, it is very simple to unplug a set of speakers and plug in a new set of speakers. It's really easy to unplug a CD mechanism and plug in another CD mechanism. It's easy to change out an amplifier or a receiver or a set of cables and then spend time auditioning.
That's why I have eight pairs of headphones over here off to the side.
Right. And part of that, and part of the joy of being an audiophile, right, for certain people, is that process of research and that process of auditioning and that process of comparing. And what happens with car audio is that it's not as easy as just plugging something
Too
else
many
in.
variables.
Right.
Too
and
many
so
variables.
what we see all the time is we see customers who have just gotten to the point where they could have not worried about the gear nearly as much and had something that was properly installed and properly tuned, and it would have blown away any of that gear, right? The gear wasn't the problem. We see it over and over and over again. And it's just, it's frustrating for the customer. It's frustrating for us, but that's why we have the approaches that we all have. And it's from our experience of 10, 20, 30 years of trial and error and figuring things out and getting better and better at what we do that eliminates that need for all of that. And the hard part is not wanting to take away the fun part for a customer of that research and that, what do you think of this woofer versus that woofer, this speaker versus that speaker type of stuff that they get, that there's fun to that. It's not the vacuum cleaner fun, Matt, of your like which vacuum is better, right? This is a little more exciting. It's more like I'm gonna buy a new car exciting, right? Like it's that type of research exciting.
I get about one customer like that a year, and they'll come. It's like they'll either be the guy that's gonna spend way too much money and it's perfectly fine, or it's gonna be the guy that it's like he's literally trying to fit this into a small box. He's going to do the research that it's going to take to get everything he needs into this small box, and then he'll pull the trigger. But, he'll come in and he'll talk to us. He'll spend like 20, 30 minutes talking about whatever it is he's just done research on. And we'll go over how it's going to fit into the bigger scope of what he's trying to do. And then he'll go away. And a month later, he'll be back and we'll talk about what he's just done research on. And, usually ends with them finally bringing whatever they've come up with. And at this point, we've spent so much time talking about it. It's just like, can we please just put it in your car? Can we just do this? I don't want to talk about it anymore. Can we just please just put it in and everyone's happy and I don't have to talk to you about it anymore? It's like,
yeah, well, I think the biggest combat to a client like that is you're already have an answer for everything that they say. So all the research that they've done, they already feel like you're the most educated resort that they've had throughout their pursuit.
yeah.
So now when you start talking, you can lead them in a direction to say, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, let's not do that, because that doesn't make any fucking sense. And then you continue, and then you come up with a solution. And that's the biggest problem with our industry is the sales, because generally those sales aren't coming to like me and you in a normal shop where we could have answers to those questions. They're going to people who aren't prepared to answer those questions.
That's an Andy.
Does that make sense?
That's an Andy conversation for sure.
Yeah.
No, 100%, 100%. I mean, I'm not a sales guy. People always ask, "Oh, you're a sales guy." I'm like, "No, I'm not a sales guy. I'm the guy that's going to be putting this stuff in your car." So at the end of the day, when we're done with everything that we've done here, I'm the last face you're going to see before you drive away. And so my goal is that I want it to be a happy face that drives away. And it's like, this is so awesome. And you don't even look in your mirror because you just want to drive down the road. So my job is not to sell you on anything. It's just to give you what you want so that you go away happy.
Right.
If that's a salesman, fine. But to me, I'm not trying to sell you on this. I'm just literally trying to listen to you and turn that into stuff that I know stuff about, because most of the customers don't know anything about it. And I know you always talk about how we have to educate them. And we do. But at the end of the day, they don't need to know as much as we do. They just have to know enough to where they understand that what we're giving them is what they're asking for. And that's, to me, the most important part.
Yeah. The sale is that they desire the sound that you're going to provide them more than they value the money in their pocket.
Correct.
And you guys will come to an agreement about what that's going to take for both of you.
Yeah.
100%. And I always like to tell the customer, I say, all right, so what we're going to design is the dream system. So this is the system this is what you're telling me you want. So regardless of what the price is, because that's not my part of the job, is that everything you've told me up to this point has led us to where we're going to be when Paul finishes writing down these numbers on the page. So if those numbers are within whatever it is you want to do, rock and roll, put a deposit down, let's get you in here. If they're not, we're going to have to not do what you're dreaming of. We're going to have to do the other system. And they'll be like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, so let me ask you this, because you do a lot of YouTube and just the limited stuff that I do on YouTube. People will always comment and say, how much for this or how much for that. First and foremost, those leads, are you dealing with those leads? Or are they going to your sales guy and he's dealing with those leads? How does that work, first and foremost?
So when it comes to pricing and stuff like that, like in the comments, and we have always had a no price policy in our videos. So we never talk about pricing for anything in any of our videos, whether it's an unboxing video or an install video. Pricing is never a topic because I don't want to get into that. That's not my job. If you want to know how much something costs, the internet is full of places that will tell you how much something costs. When it comes to somebody that is doing research on the channel, the call will come into Paul, or the email will come into Paul. And if it's something that he can handle, then he'll handle it. If it's outside of his scope, then it just goes into a queue. And then when I don't have anything to do, I'll go and call the people back. like right now it takes about 2 to 3 weeks for me to call you back, just because
Yeah, for sure.
I don't have time.
Mhm.
And then people be like, I text you, or I called, I emailed. It's like, listen, man, we're not gonna be able to get you a car before November anyways, so just calm down, man. We'll get back to you eventually. It's just
Your call will be answered in the order it was received.
Let me tell you what, Fernando does the best one of those ever. You know, he'll be like, "Thank you for calling, but sorry, right now," and he does that. It's just like, I gotta record that and put that on my outgoing message. But it's like, I mean, we're working late every night as it is, and it's like I want to take every call, but
Yeah, I can't even imagine what it's like for you, because like I don't like I have 100th of the subscribers that you have on YouTube, and I can't even keep up with the stuff that comes in. And for me, I have to weed out everything based on how much time the person who sent the email took on that email.
right.
If I see multiple paragraphs and a lot of time and effort was put into that email, I know that person's serious.
Oh yeah,
Matt,
If somebody's saying
Matt
how
just
much
says,
for X,
yes.
yeah,
now Matt just says, I'm going to need you to listen to podcasts 1 through blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. And then when you're
100%.
done, email me again.
Well, see,
Yeah.
but that's the
100%.
That's the problem. People come in and they'll already have watched the whole series.
yeah.
And so funny story. I got a text message the other day from my daughter's coach, and he goes, "Dude, this is the funniest story ever." He was talking. His friend used to live next door to me. The house literally next door to me. He lived there for like 5 years. Okay. He didn't know who I was. He watched the video that we did. He's telling him how he watched this video like 75 times. He's called and talked to me on the phone 3 times. He didn't know I was his next door neighbor. Okay. I'm like, seriously? He's like, he had no idea. It's like,
Wow, that's funny.
okay. But that's actually a fairly common thing, because like when we'll be at Knowledge Fest, Fernando and I will be back to back, and I'll be talking to somebody one way and he'll be talking to people the other way, and they'll literally go to him, "Hey, where's Dean?" And I'll hear him because I listen to everything.
Uh-huh.
And he'll go, "I have no idea where he's at. I haven't seen him all day. Like, I saw him this morning when we woke up, but I haven't seen him since." I'm like, "Oh, when you see him, man, tell him I said hi." And I'll just be talking to whoever's in front of me, hearing this going on, and I'll just be like, "Son of a bitch."
That's funny.
But yeah, so back to your point as far as booking jobs and like, you know, they watch the video. You know, I'll have people come in, and like I had a guy come in the other day with a Toyota Tundra, which we do a bunch of Toyota Tundras, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, no, I want to do what you did in that video," and I'll be like,
Right.
Which video?
"What did we do?" Yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, there's that, and then there's also the understanding of the value of the product. Like, you know, the first thing that I get to with people that call in is what we did in a video is irrelevant. Maybe that's what spoke to you.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, every single client has different budgets. With car audio, it's a weird scenario where there's a big unknown because nobody knows what things cost. Whereas when you go car shopping, you know, okay, I want to spend 40 to 50 grand or 60 grand, and these are the features that I want in a car. And you already have those preconceived notions of where you're going to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you already know where you're going to fall potentially with what car you're going to get.
Well, I mean, it's like your center console story. I mean, it's
Exactly.
the exact same thing. I mean, it's like I listened to the customer and or future customer as it was, and he explained to me the video. I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember that one."
Yeah.
And so then I said, "All right, well, that's cool. We have a foundation of what you want, but let's talk about what you might actually need, because you might not like the speakers we chose for that car just based on the type of music you listen to. So let's have that conversation. Who's going to be using this? Do you have kids? Are you playing kids music? You know?" And so, you know, we went round and round until we figured out exactly the system that he needed for his car to get him his dream system. You know?
Right. And kind of like the way that I put it when it comes to audio is like, at the end of the day, it comes down to like, how close to reference are you going to get? And whatever your budget is, more than likely it's not going to swing that drastically, right? So we can kind of start by educating you to let you understand what some of these different jobs cost. And then now you have a preconceived notion of where maybe you might fall based on your expectations with budget. And then we can then design a system around your budget to give you the best return on your investment, to get you the closest point to reference for your budget. You know, and some people like, you know, aesthetics, some people just want all performance, and that's something we have to balance within the budget. But at the end of the day, most people's budget aren't going to swing that drastically, even though there's been some clients where, you know, they have the money to spend on a job and they think that a full system might be $3,000 and then they might end up going to, you know, 20 some grand based on the conversation after you take the time and educate. But at the end of the day, like, they need to have a reference point of what some of the different types of systems cost to understand where they might fall in that lineup.
Oh, 100%. And that's one of the things as we're, you know, when I'm talking with the client about the particular system, sometimes they've already done their research. Like if they saw something in a video, they'll go online and figure out about how much like the products cost. So they'll already have a preconceived idea. And then others, of course, they don't care to do that kind of research. So, you know, you kind of start talking to them, and when I won't say the word frustrated, but when I'm like, I got a car in the bay that I need to get done, and I need to speed this process up, I'll be like, listen, I'm not the sales guy, but to make this go a little bit faster so that we can get you out of here, do you have a budget in mind? Because I don't want to waste a bunch of time telling you about all this stuff that you might not be interested in. So if we could move past that dance portion of this and just get on to, and if they go, well, I don't have a budget, I go, everybody has a budget. Okay.
Right. And that's the biggest problem with our industry, and especially when it comes to referral stuff from YouTube like you and I have, is I would say one of my most popular videos on YouTube is a Jeep Grand Cherokee we did for Illusion and Moscone for a demo vehicle. Well, there was like $30,000 of product in that vehicle. So a lot of people ask like, hey, I want the same thing as that. Give me a quote. And I'm like, first you have to understand there was probably $25,000 to $30,000 in just equipment in this build. And then there's probably 15 to 20 days of labor on that build. Okay? So the $3,000 or $4,000 system that you come back and say your budget is, it doesn't work. That's why this isn't relevant. Right. By you saying, hey, how much for this in my car? Like, tell me what you want. Tell me what your expectations are. Tell me what you've had in the past so I know, like, what maybe you've experienced in the past. And then let me know what you thought you were going to spend on this type of system. Yeah.
So it's like if we had an F-150 where we did a big system in that, but then let's say 2 weeks later we do an F-150 that's just a kicker key. It's like we'll shoot both those videos so that they can, you know, that guy that types in F-150 stereo upgrade, he could see 2 different ways that this could be done. It's like, oh man, that is an awesome, like, I want all that. And then they do some research and like, that's cool. I want this one over here. This is my speed. Let's do this. And it's like, you know, so we always try to give a variety of price points for the guys that are going to do their homework and be like, can I still get a good system in my car for $3,500? Like when you guys were doing that $3,500 system, you know, the first time you guys did that, Fernando comes in the next day and he goes, all right, we need to design a $3,500 system. Because, you know
how many texts I get where people are like, check this out.
Yeah.
This is my list.
Yeah. And I'm like,
yeah, Gary, by the way, I had somebody hit me up on Messenger today out of the blue. Yeah. And they were just like, just want to let you know, I definitely got a better $3,500 system than Gary. Hold on. I'll read it right now.
I probably know who it is.
Okay, hold on. Here it is.
Just read me the equipment. I'll tell you if I know who it is.
Sony XAV AX1000.
Yeah, I know who it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Remember the text message? Oh, never mind. No.
Yeah. But that was a funny funny one that I got out of the blue.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So he comes in and he's like, so did you guys design
oh
one?
my
Or?
dude, design one. Dude, you
Okay.
don't understand. We spend 6 days a week, 9 hours a day together, and we talk about everything. So I think we spent a whole week just going through all the scenarios of like, okay, so if we do this and we do that, and if we add this in there, all right, well, do we have, it was like, because, he's just like, oh, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. You forgot sound treatment. We got to put sound treatment in there because I always thought, I'm like, okay, all right, well, dude, we got $3,500 here. I mean, are we putting this in, or is the guy down the street putting this in? Because if we're putting this in, we're tapped.
Right,
we're
you just
tapped
did a
out.
big chunk.
Okay.
Right.
I could try 100 days in a row. I don't know if I'll ever get to the true $3,500 system.
Well, and Matt, that's not necessarily you, but on the sound effects side,
right,
yeah,
for sure, yeah,
that can be done.
yeah.
I mean,
And the part that I loved about that whole thing was that I feel like that is the starting point of a real system for the people that want to know, right? That's the point where when you spend $3,500, you can start to accurately reproduce music in the front of a car.
oh yeah,
Right?
I'd give that.
That's where it begins. And literally, you want to change the game on that? Throw another $200 at it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you get for $3,700? Well, it makes you reevaluate every one of those freaking choices, and from there to $150,000, we have all the room in the world. That's how difficult our job is when somebody comes in and doesn't have a budget.
So I always tell people that it's like going to the concession stand at a movie theater and buying popcorn. All right. So you've already spent whatever it takes to get in to buy a ticket. Now you walk up to the concession stand and all you want is a small popcorn and a drink. Okay? And the guy goes to you, "Hey, for 50 cents more, I can get you to a medium." And you're like, "Okay, well, if you spend $1 more, I can get you a combo." Well, if you spend $5 more, I said, so what happens is by the time you're done, you walk up to the counter, you got a backpack full of Coke, a trash can full of popcorn, and you're checking out spending $200, and you're going, I just wanted a small popcorn and a Coke. What the hell happened? Car audio is exactly that. It's like, when the guy goes, hey, I want to spend $1,000. All right, we spent $1,000. All right, well, if you spend $200 more, we could do this. If you spend $500 more, we could have done that. If you spend $1,000 and double your budget, well, that brings us into here. So figure out what you want to spend, and then we'll hyper focus on that. And they just look at you. So
Yeah, and that's the biggest part of the sales process is being able to articulate the differences between the equipment that would yield them a much drastic result.
Oh yeah.
Right? For a little bit more. Because again, and I don't know if we've ever said a number, Gary, because there's a point where obviously then you start yielding minimal results.
Right.
The more money you spend, right? There's always going to be a tipping point. But I think that number is probably somewhere around 12 to 15 grand, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that if you take arts and crafts out of it, right? If you take the cool guy trim panels and over the top integration out of it, that to get to if $3,500 is the entry into a system that accurately reproduces music, you can double that to 7 and you see a huge increase. You see a huge benefit, right? But the benefit when you double from 75 to 15,000, that benefit starts to shrink. And I think that sweet spot is in that $7,500 to $15,000 range. You can get something that's really amazing. And as expensive as that's going to sound to a lot of people, there's a lot of $10,000 to $15,000 home audio towers. That's not electronics.
Right.
That's a pair of speakers.
Well, that was
right. Like
that was the conversation I was having today with somebody in the F1 status piece. Because the guy's an Alpine, diehard Alpine fan, and he was just like, and I said, because I had a meeting with Alpine a couple weeks ago, and I know your connection with Alpine, so you probably know way more than I do, but or not, I don't know. Anyways, so we were talking about it, and I said, so what is your answer for that? Because I'm getting tons of blowback on it. And they said, oh, it's simple. And I said, what's that? He goes, it's not for everybody, and it might not be for you. And I was like, oh, hell, that was easy. Never mind. And there it's just it's not for everybody. And and I was comparing it to this guy, and I said, listen, man, if you go out and buy a set of medium-sized Dyne Audio cabinets for your living room, you're going to spend $25,000. You haven't even turned them on yet. Okay, $35,000 for a whole system? Yeah, you're good. It's not that bad.
And you take that and you start complicating the system, right? That it's one thing if that's a two-way or a three-way system in the front of the car. It's another if you're trying to do an up mixer and trying to do rear surround and you're trying to add, large amounts of bass or high output at that same system. Like there's a lot of stuff that can complicate that and take that from an easy, 10 to 15 to $25,000 worth of that. And then you start adding arts and crafts on top of it. And
you gotta...
I know Maddie's had a few of those tickets that have gone, 30, 40, 50, 60, $70,000. And it's there by the time you do it, and more. It's giving you the thumbs up, a few more. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, because arts and crafts are that's where it's at. I mean, that's
arts and crafts are fun.
I mean, when we made the decision to walk away from that, it was something we had to think about, because it was like, okay, so do we walk away from this entirely, or what do we do? And it was like, we had to make a clean cut. It was like, okay, so like we don't even have a sheet of wood in the install bay. There is no wood anywhere. None of the blades that we have in any of our saws will cut wood. Everything is 100% plastic. And, we just, for time and performance and getting the cars in and getting them out and getting enough through the door to keep him happy, it was like, okay, so we have to go and we have to use companies like MTI and Fox Acoustics and, Kicker pre-made boxes or Alpine pre-made boxes or Rockford pre-made boxes. And we've got a couple local guys that like SRQ Customs that will make boxes. We can just literally call them up and say, we have this car, and they make a good box, and I don't have to deal with that side of it.
Well, yeah, and from a business standpoint, yes, selling more equipment and getting more cars out the door makes a lot of sense. It's why a lot of shops don't do well. Right? It's because they don't get enough cars out the door. And I know some guys that do really, really great work, and they spend 2 or 3 weeks on every car that they do minimum, and it becomes really hard to pay the overhead when you're not, moving,
turning revenue.
I've told Pate 100 times, as long as you make a box for said vehicle, I will never make an underseat enclosure a day in my life.
Oh no,
unless the client requests it, because
unless
it's
the client
way easier
challenges
for it
you
to be there and for it to just get installed.
Yeah,
that is way easier for me.
No, I mean, and
hey,
we just do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you feel bad? I feel like Chris Pate is secretly mad at us for not inviting him on the podcast yet, and I almost feel like it's kind of a joke internally that I haven't even brought it up yet about him coming on the show. Yet we all obviously know that at some point he'll be on the show.
For sure.
I don't see how he could not. I mean, I mean, dude, that building that he has now is just insanity. I mean, but it's great though that he's been able to see a hole in the industry, and like he has the capabilities of filling it. And it's like he offers a product that the other guys weren't offering. Because
and stuck to keeping it very customizable and multiple levels. Yeah, I mean he's doing something really cool. It's really cool to watch it grow.
We'll call up if somebody comes in. Like we had a couple guys. You know who Bobby Gately is?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, so he makes these incredible, just so sexy looking wood boxes, and we're like, we did one, and we're like, oh my god, this is like they sound insane. They're just so like smack the back of your head off, and so a couple guys were like, I want this, and so then they started showing up in the store, and I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. But I don't want to compete with that. I mean, I can spend my time doing something else better. And, if it just means putting a logo on a door to take off your Ugly Bows logo, and that's what gets you through the day, Okay, that's fine. I bought a laser. We'll do that. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's simple stuff. But it just that it's like this car this guy's gonna pick up tomorrow. He's like, oh man, just put 5-star somewhere, and I'm like, you bet, no problem. I'll just hit print and go wherever you want it, And I'll go to Fernando. Go. He wants 5-star somewhere. You point where you want it, and I'll design it and put it in there. And yeah, that's whatever it takes. I don't care. If it makes you happy, because that's our job. Just make these people happy, and they pay us, and then we get to keep doing what we do tomorrow.
Put a smile on their face while they're driving down the road.
It's that quiet moment.
I was gonna say,
Maddie looks like he's getting ready to fall asleep.
That's got to be late for you guys. I'm tired, and I'm, obviously I'm 3 hours behind you guys.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, if you can't think, if you want to know anything else.
Well, I mean, you are our first guest that has been on 2 times.
Thank you for having me.
Even though the first episode was not.
True. That's wild, right?
Oh my god, that was great.
So much was edited out of
Nuh-uh.
So Matt, I think this was before we started, but when we recorded that episode that was when I had COVID, and if you go back and you look, I'm like coughing and like,
oh wow.
I didn't know it yet. I didn't know it was COVID yet. And then that was you. I think you went on vacation, and I laid in bed for a week and learned how to edit.
Wow, that's fun.
Yeah, God, that sucks, man.
Yeah, that was my entry into editing. One of these things was having to edit that episode
with COVID, dying. Well,
I was very fortunate that it didn't hit me very hard.
Thank goodness. Yeah. Oh my gosh. No, that was funny too, because like when all that started, we were going to go to our first Knowledge Fest California, and that was like right when that was starting to happen. And Fernando's like, dude, you sure you want to go? And he starts freaking out. I'm like, dude, it's a cold. Relax. We'll all be fine. It'll be great. Don't worry about it. And then we fly out there, fly back, and it's like 2 weeks later, it's like the world stopped. And I was like, oh, that didn't see that coming. He's like, I told you. I'm like, shush. It's like when we went out to Orlando for that one. And it was like, dude, that was like... So we go to Orlando, and the last day, Sunday, we're hanging out, and I'm sitting at a table with Brian Mitchell, Nick Wingate, Matthew Palumbo from Audio Control, and we're all just talking, and it's great. And I'm looking at my watch. I'm like, all right, well, if we leave at 6, we'll be home by 8:30. And it was like, all right, well, if we leave by 7, we'll be home. If we leave by 10,
Oh gosh.
So we finally go. Fernando's upstairs talking with Ricardo from Monsters from Hell in Mexico, and all those guys. And so I said, dude, it's 10 o'clock. We got to go. Like, oh, we'll be home by 11:30. They had shut I-4 down to 1 lane to do construction. So it took us like 2.5 hours to get home.
Oh, that's brutal.
I was like, and I'm just like this. He's like, wake up. I'm like, I'm awake. I was like, it sucks. But we just did, it's like, I haven't seen a person in so long. I don't want to not. You're a human? Oh my God, I can touch you. So it was funny, but good times.
Yeah.
And then, so next week we'll be out at Rockford doing a documentary there. So, which they'll have already seen by the time this comes up. But that was something we planned to do back in 2019, and that got canceled. So we had a free week next week, and I called them up, and I was like, hey, do you still want to do this? And they were like, yes. And I was like, okay, let's do it.
Free week? How you going to be gone from the shop for a week?
So what had happened was Paul won the Kenwood trip to Hawaii. And so he came over and he said to us, hey, we're going to close for this week because I'm going to Hawaii. And I said, you sure? He's like, yeah. And I said, okay. So as soon as he walked out, I was literally on the phone with Rockford going, I got a week off. And they were like, give us a day. Let me talk with the right people to find out if we still want to do this. And so they called me back like, yeah, let's do this. And then he came back in last month and he's like, dude, the Hawaii trip got canceled. And I go, mine didn't.
Oh gosh.
Have fun.
Oops.
So
oops.
Yeah. So and Fernando he's like, this year we drove to Kicker So we I don't know if you guys saw any of that nightmare. Our rep had one of the kicker trucks here in Florida, and they needed to return it back to kicker. It's been sitting in his driveway for a year and a half. And so he's like, I need this to go back to Stillwater. And I go, well, that'd be cool if we could drive it. And Fernando's like, yeah, that'd be awesome. I was like, well, Labor Day weekend is coming up. Why don't we do that? So they said yes. We called them up, and they were like, yeah, let's do it. So I think we live broadcast like 9 hours.
Oh gosh.
So we were just talking. We drove straight through. We drove to Arkansas. I have a friend that lives in Arkansas. We stopped and stayed at his house overnight, and then we drove into Stillwater Monday. And did you know Joe Hobart from Kicker?
I don't.
Okay. Anyways, so he's a friend of mine. So we stopped. We stayed at his house. And then Tuesday morning we delivered the truck. Fernando got to go in and meet Steve Irby, and it was funny too because he walks in and Steve's like, Fernando, and he was I'm just filming it because I know I know what's gonna happen, and he's just like, oh my god, he's so excited. And of course the week before we were there, because Dallas got canceled, I called up Chris Bennett, and I was like, all right, Dallas is canceled. And he's like, yeah. And I go, we got these tickets and we got this time off. What if we fly out to Seattle and we hang out with you for the weekend? And he's like, you would do that? And I was like, it's either we come to see you or we have to work. So we flew out to Seattle. We did a couple shows for them at their headquarters, and then they took us to a baseball and a football game. Which, if you ever get the opportunity to do a baseball game and then a football game back to back in 2-day period, don't ever do that. It's like
duly noted.
Because it was like
It's fun. I've been to a Mariners game, but I didn't. The Seahawks weren't playing at the time.
So
but I did
a
tour.
So it was 12 innings in the baseball game the night before.
Oh gosh.
Ooh.
And then the football game the night after. And it was like, oh my god, and then we had to catch a plane, of course, and fly back to Florida. So
you're not a sports guy, so that makes it brutal.
The baseball is brutal. The football I don't mind, but the baseball was just like stab me in the eyes and please make this stop. I was like, I thought it was a hard out at 9. Come on, what's going on? And they're just like, yeah. I'm like, oh god, we're getting nervous. I like hockey. Like I can watch hockey, but it's
fast paced.
The Kraken weren't playing yet.
Yeah, no, but
was that the first time you were at Seattle?
No, I had actually gone there back in 2018 in December. We filmed our first documentary there, because we had done a kicker documentary earlier that year, and Chris wanted one for them. So he called me up and he was like, hey man, Alex wants you to come out and shoot the place. And I go, it's like December, man. And he's like, I know, but we got to do it. Alex wants it done. I'm like, so we flew out. Fernando had to stay and work. So I asked Haley, my daughter, I said, hey, you want to go to Seattle? I need somebody to help me with this. And she's like, sure. So she had to take her college exams that Monday. So I think we got to the airport at like 2, flew there, got there at 10, got up at 7, filmed all day. Next day, got up, we had a flight out at 10 the next day. So flew back in, got here at about noon, went to work.
Oh.
So life of a rock star.
Yeah.
But we got the job done. So that was all that matters. But
so did you say you live streamed for 9 hours while you were driving?
Yeah. So, yeah. So, dude, we had a wall with 615s behind us. Okay. So we left. We got done at work, and I told Fernando. So we got done at like 6 o'clock and Saturday, and I said, all right, I'll be at your house to pick you up at 8:30. So go home, eat dinner, kiss the kids, take a shower, get dressed. I came home, ran, took a shower. The girls were already gone. They were on a cruise or something. I don't remember where they were at. Picked him up, and we drove from here to, there's a Buc-ee's. I don't know if you know what Buc-ee's is, the gas station.
I do.
Okay, so there's a Buc-ee's just outside of Atlanta, just south of Atlanta. So we drove to, that was the big thing. It's like, we're going to be at Buc-ee's, so we'll tell you when we're going to be there. But so we got there at like 1:30 in the morning. And then we drove from that Buc-ee's. There's another Buc-ee's in Louisiana. We got there at like 5 o'clock in the morning. And So we were just live at all hours of the day. We had these cool Rode lapel mics that plugged into the phone, so we had great audio. And, we would just we had one song that we could play that literally just played like a 50 hertz bass note for like 20 seconds. Just went, bah! And the whole thing just it's 615s with, they had like three 2400 KX 2400s on them. So with like a pair of 6.5s, it's like silly. So it would just beat the shit out of us. The windshield, and people would love it. And then we'd answer questions, and it was just insanity. And we'd take turns driving, but neither one of us could go to sleep because we were afraid that the other one might fall asleep because we were both dead tired. We'd worked all day, So we got to Arkansas about 4 o'clock, 3 or 4 o'clock. And that, and he was out by 7. He was like, we ate dinner, and the guy we were staying with wanted to hear the truck, so we drove down the street to this park, beat the shit out of the truck for a while, came back, and I was like, where's Fernando? And he's like, oh, he went to bed. I was like, all right, makes sense. but yeah, it was silly. But yeah, we streamed for about 9 hours total.
That's nuts.
I can't imagine how many hours of content you've created in your lifetime.
A lot.
Yeah.
But it was funny though, because it was almost to the point where we're like, can we go live? Because we were both tired, and we knew if we went live, we would have something else to pay attention to. So we're like, can we go live? Or do you think there's cell towers here? I mean, it's. And he'd be like, it's like 3 a.m. I'd be like, yeah, but it's only midnight in California.
The base heads are up late.
You needed a dopamine rush.
I needed something, But it was funny but no, dude, there was people on every time we went on. It was literally like, because it's all over the world. I mean, we'll get people. That's one of the things we do at the beginning of the show is let us know where you're from, because we were just kind of shocked when we saw some of the places that people are from. It's like, when a guy goes in Russia, and you're like, holy crap, or we had a lot of people from Iraq back when that nightmare was going on, or just military guys that are chiming in from wherever they're stationed, because it's just a little piece of home for them to watch, and it was weird. But so there's always somebody watching. It was just how many people that were up at that hour, but where they're from, it's like, yeah, it's daylight, dude. We're eating lunch.
That's cool.
But then we had people that would go to sleep and wake up and be like, Jesus Christ, you guys are still driving?
Still talking, huh? Can't just shut the F up, huh?
Yeah. Sometimes.
What do you think, Matt? You think we're gonna have to do this live at some point?
I don't know. I hope not.
A live episode?
I don't have time for that.
Oh, come on. You don't have time for a 9-hour episode?
No.
If I drove
already in this episode.
If we both hopped in our cars and both raced to Chris Pate's place, we could be there in 9 hours. No, that's longer than 9 hours.
Already in this conversation, or in this podcast, my wife said, "You keep waking me up. Stop talking so loud. I'm getting so mad. Oh my God, just stop. Don't respond. Just stop."
Oh.
Well, let's call it a night.
Sounds like she
gents.
needs some noise-canceling headphones.
So what's next for 5-Star? What's next for Dean and Fernando?
Obviously we're gonna put a lot of effort into this new tool we have coming out. That's gonna suck up my life for probably the rest of this year. After that, who knows? I mean, it's one of those things that we've learned through doing this, is that you just kind of, you have to turn when it's time to turn. And so we're just trying to pay attention to that, and when it's time to turn, we turn. We've kind of done that with the show throughout the years. When something was getting old or dried up, we would turn on to something else. So we'll just see what happens. Just for right now, it's just concentrating on that, and then we'll see what happens there. This is new for me. Having a retail store online and all that weird stuff, and making a tool, and yeah. So
that's exciting, though. I mean, it's something that kind of re-energizes.
It's taken 2 years, so it's like we've literally been dealing with engineering samples for like 2 years, and it's to see it now as a final product in a box in my living room, and there's lots of them.
Is it have you introduced it? Is it shipping?
It's
Is
not
it...
shipping yet. We're gonna wait until we get back from Rockford because we didn't want to take anything away from their thunder. As far as us,
Bring me one.
I was
Bring me
I was
one.
planning on that.
Oh, awesome.
I was planning on that, but okay. Anyways, yeah. So once we get done with Rockford, and we're hoping to have that whole website and all that crap done by sometime in November, and then we're gonna launch it, and everyone can get one for Christmas, and my bank account will be happy again, because right now it's I got a checking and a savings account, and like there's like a that whole
Shift?
yeah. Yeah. They showed up on the doorstep the other day. My wife goes, "Hey, those things showed up." Okay.
I take it that's self-financed or
oh yeah,
inventory has been paid for.
it's paid for now.
Yeah,
But
that sucks.
well, that's the other thing too that a lot of people like. So the entertainment side that is 5-star is done through a production company called Smash Force Productions. So I had to create a production company that I own to run all of it, because we're not part of 5-star. So there's a whole different group that is responsible for that. So there's paychecks and taxes and expense accounts and travel budgets and all of that is done through Smash Force, which is my company. So that gets kind of strange because Paul has no part of it. So it's not none of the stuff we do is part of actual 5-star car stereo. So it gets really weird.
I can imagine. I won't pry, although I have 1,000 questions.
Hey, Friday.
Yeah. Hey, there you go.
Well, let's make Matt's wife happy so he can go in bed and sleep tonight.
Yeah.
Not have to sleep on the couch. But thanks for having me on, guys.
That was fun.
That was a solid 3 hours. That's pretty good. It's no
It's
9-hour drive, but
It's always so easy to do. Whenever we have somebody on, I feel like we could just talk forever and ever and ever and ever.
Well, like-minded people,
Yep.
it's rare when you find people that like the same stuff you like, because like trying to explain what we do to other people, they just always go,
huh?
Wait, what? Why would anybody do that? Never mind. Tell me about your job. How's that desk?
Well, first I count the paper clips, and then I put them into a box, and then I put that box inside another box.
Oh yeah.
Along with other boxes of paper clips.
Let me tell you what, buying boxes are expensive.
Oh yeah.
Just a freaking cardboard box. I'm like, oh my god, really? Oh well.
Yeah. Get your packing tape ready.
Yeah. Oh well.
Printing labels. Oh, it's gonna be so much. Sell a product. It's gonna be so much fun, they say.
No. But hey, whatever. It's something new. If it goes well, I'll be happy. So
good.
And then
We're excited for you.
Thank you.
Excited to check it out.
So, see you Friday.
Yeah. Is it? Oh yeah, a week from Friday.
But yeah. Sorry, I'm already past thinking this week, because it's like we're building our camera rigs and getting all our gear together, and because like you just went to a concert, I'm going to a concert Saturday. We're going to see Kiss on the.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah, so this will be the end of the road tour, the second time it's gone through Florida, and Haley's a big fan, so she's like, "Dad, they're coming back," and I'm like, "Oh, we gotta go."
Awesome.
So, fun times.
Very cool.
All right.
Well, thanks again for being here. Thanks for being the first to be on twice.
I feel honored and blessed.
And this will be probably one of the easiest episodes to edit.
Yeah, it's just
I'm not
that
gonna
one.
Take out any noise.
Just that one thing.
No, I'll keep that in.
Hey, my pen stayed on the floor.
Yep, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's the easiest episode to edit. There's no background noise, no hiss, no EQ adjustments. We didn't take any random breaks to let a dog out. I mean, it was just
Yeah.
perfect.
It's almost like Dean has done this before.
Yeah.
I got 2 more I got to do tomorrow night. So we do
Oh,
we do
gosh.
live. I do 2 live shows on Thursday night. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah, I forgot about those.
I don't know how you do it.
Very carefully.
Insane.
I don't
It's-
know how you do
I
it.
can't juggle, but I try.
You look like you're pulling it off from our seat. So
Then the magic is working.
yay!
But thanks, guys.
All right. Have a good night. We'll see you guys later.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll catch up soon.